Regular board meeting. Clerk Segers, can you please take roll call?
Borninski,
Good evening.
Foster,
Good evening.
Ganguly,
Good evening.
Graham Hudak.
Good evening.
Let the record reflect that Clerk Segrist is in attendance. And Slavens is unfortunately not here. Snyderman.
I am here.
Thank you. Can we please all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great, thank you. So the first item on the agenda is our study session on ERP. So Victor, would you like to kick us off, please?
Thank you so much. With us tonight, we have a representative, Christopher Carr, from Plant Moran, and he's representing the consultant that we are using for the whole process of the ERP, for the whole ERP process. And so I'm going to ask Christopher Carr to kind of give us a brief summary of where we are, where we started, and how we got to where we are. And then I'm going to wrap it up. Chris, over to you.
Thanks, Victor. Screen share working?
Yes, we can see it.
Great. One more minute here.
It was shared and then it went away.
I've got it. Here we go. Good evening. Thank you for allowing me to be here. My name is Chris Carr. I'm a senior manager with Plant Moran. Been working alongside Victor, Devin, Landers, and the township since March 2023 up to today throughout the ERP software search process. Going to be sharing with you a brief overview of the process taken up to this point since last March and leading up to the events of last month, which were a recommendation for the township on a best fit ERP solution to pursue. This approach has taken 3 phases up to today. The process began with requirements definition, that involving interviews with many township stakeholders and staff to assess what is needed in an ERP solution, what are the software areas or modules that will be involved in that, and to generate a list of specifications leading to an RFP. The phase 2 of the project was development and publication of said RFP, leading up to phase 3, evaluation, due diligence, and selection. Upon the conclusion of this phase, which is not yet complete, the township will proceed into negotiations and implementation of the chosen solution. A little detail regarding the scope of the ERP software product. So this search was taken with a vision for an ERP solution or enterprise resource planning solution that would govern all of the township's operations, including those of financial nature, those involving HR and payroll, as well as those that manage government operations. So assessing and property tax, community development, utility billing, licensing and permitting, et cetera, et cetera. Also involved in this software package would be technical and business analytics tools, a strong reporting engine, ability to integrate with additional softwares, modules or portions of the software to archive and maintain documentation, and strong cloud hosting and cybersecurity capabilities to protect the system and to keep it up and running. The township entered this process with several guiding principles. First, the principle that investments in technology will improve efficiency, capacity, and reduce cost. In other words, the selected solution should generate a return on investment. Township will embrace process improvement strategies. So the township, the staff involved in this process will be open to change. This is important. One of the main reasons that we see for failure of ERP projects is a resistance to change. So the township, from the onset of this search, stated that they would be open to changing processes as well as software. Decisions related to the selected system and the implementation will be made for the betterment of the entire township. Entire township meaning all departments, finance, HR, payroll, utilities, community development, all staff, and all of the township's constituents. Then towards the end of that goal, the township's selection committee will be composed of a diverse group of township leadership staff, meaning not just financial staff, not just technology staff, but individuals representing all departments, financial, HR, et cetera, et cetera. This slide summarizes the approach taken in a little more detail. So these are the major activities that were involved throughout this process from March up until last month. You also see a summary of township staff involved in each of these steps and the hours that they committed towards these activities. As you can see, the process did involve a large number of staff. Opinions and feedback and perspectives were sought from many different individuals. There's a great deal of time invested in this search to ensure the township could be confident in the recommended solution and performed adequate due diligence. As I mentioned, the township did formulate a group of individuals, a diverse group, who would evaluate solutions and reach a recommendation as to a best fit ERP solution. Here you see the criteria that were utilized in the evaluation and recommendation that was made. Criteria included functionality or ability of the solutions to perform the township's requirements, professional qualifications or experience in supporting solutions and implementing solutions in local government, as well as in the state of Michigan. An implementation and support approach. So under that category, the timeline, the level of effort involved in implementing the solution, the vendor's ability to be a partner to the township and to support the solution after the implementation and into the future. The underlying technology stack of the solution, including its cybersecurity standards, its cloud hosting approach, its reporting tools, mobile applications, et cetera. And lastly, the price of the solution. As mentioned last month, the township's selection committee did reach a recommendation. That recommendation is for a best-of-breed solution approach. A best-of-breed approach would be an approach in which multiple software packages are utilized. Those multiple packages in this case are Tyler Technologies' enterprise ERP product, which would power the finance, HR, and payroll components of the software package, and then BSNA Software's cloud ERP solution, which would provide functionality for utility billing, community development, and tax and assessing. Both of these vendors met the majority of the township's software requirements that were published in the RFP. Both have an extensive track record of success in local government and in the state of Michigan. Both have proposed cloud-hosted software as a service software platforms. And both were within the township's budget range for this project. I believe Victor is going to share more information regarding next steps and regarding the recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chris. First, I want to also thank the board for giving us the opportunity to undergo this process. It has really created an avenue for us to review what we have and see where we can improve on processes. And so, given that that's the case, we look at the recommendation of the committee, whereby they are now recommending for us to move ahead with the two solutions integrated together as a mechanism that will allow the township to really offer the services that we've been known to offer in a way that is very effective. A while back, I was, talking to somebody, and I said to the person, I often love to use analogy to describe stuff, particularly when it gets to technology, so that it can make sense. Because when it gets to technology in terms of explanation, you can lose people. And I said to the person, look, the township had given us the mandate. The leadership had given us the mandate to provide something that works. We can look at it as, a good dinner that is really, awesome, amazing dinner. I'm sorry, it's evening. I know people are hungry, but and so, but for that dinner to come to the table, the chef in the kitchen has to cook it, and the person who you're serving, in this case, the residents, they really have to appreciate it. And so, what we have here is a scenario where the people who are using or who you consider to be the chef in the kitchen, they have to be happy with the tools they're using to cook. They have to be happy with the kind of materials, the kind of pot, the kind of, oven or stove that they're using. They have to be happy with it. And they have to be happy about what they're cooking. And the residents, when they get that thing that is being cooked, has to be good. And so, if you look at it from that perspective, you realize that, look, it's not just about going to find one solution that will serve the public, but the people who are serving it has to be happy about what they are serving up. And so when we look through it, really, we say, okay, we have a scenario here whereby the Tyler solution is extremely effective for the financial model, and the people who are using it are extremely happy about the financial model. And by virtue of that, we are saying they are bound to serve up something good to the residents. The same thing is equally, can be extended, the same thing to BSNA. MSD and every other person who are involved in the community development component, they've got to be happy about that. They got to be happy about the tools that we're giving them. And when they are doing what they are doing, serving the public, the people who are receiving it will be extremely happy about that. Now, everybody over here knows that for you to do so, the chef in the kitchen, might love some of those, oven that cost a little bit, but, if it puts a smile on the face of the chef, he's about to serve you something good. And so if you think about it that way, then it makes sense for us to go the way that we are going by bringing the two together and putting it in such a way that everybody that will be involved will be happy about it, so that what we're presenting to our residents will be excellent service. And furthermore, for us to do this, we have to then bring the two people together, meaning BSNA and Tyler, be able to talk to them in such a way that the two systems will work. And towards the end, what we're doing today is to make sure we present to the board the recommendation of the committee, and then ask the board to authorize us to begin the process of negotiation, which will also involve, meaning that we're going to ask Plant Moran to help us in that process, because bringing two people together, you need a good referee in the middle, because sometimes the two opposing teams might not so like to work together. And so that's really how we got to where we got to. When the votes were cast in the committee, it was really almost like a split in the middle. You would say the margin were really minimal in terms of the number of votes that was cast on both sides. In terms of costs, I'm going to try to share a slide here. Previously, when I came before the board, I had shown the board this particular slide that represented what we are currently paying. And the difference, what we will be when we move to the new solutions. Because we are going in a hybrid environment, the costs that we got in the RFP right now is basically going to be informal, because we're going to go into negotiations. But if we have to use those costs to make some projections in terms of to sort of guide us to where we need to be, we are looking at, based on what we are recommending, we're looking at, let me see if I can point you to the right direction. If this white screen, it looks like it's washing off. Right over, it's washing off, never mind, it's washing off here. So right over here is Tyler's component for finance module and HR module. And then we jump right over here for utility management, community development component, and tax and assessing.
Victor, can you zoom in, because we can't read that at all?
Let me see if I can do so here.
I can read ERP cost analysis, and that's
Okay,
it.
1 second.
Just put it in presentation mode, maybe.
Yeah. Obscured in my screen here. Slideshow. Okay. Any better?
No.
Okay. Let me,
Yeah. Yeah,
okay.
almost there.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
I can read it now.
You can see
I
most
think I'm
of it.
farthest
All
away.
right. So, based on what I was saying, the proposal will be, we'll grab the Tyler Munis component here and HR component here, and then jump over to the BSNA component and grab the, let's see, what is this one? Back. Sorry about that. Right here. So I grab the utility component and then grab the community development component from right here. And of course, this is the assessing. All this, when we look at it, plus the implementation cost, Tyler is charging us about 1.2 million for implementation, and BSNA is charging 697,000. Now, these are all the costs associated here are 7-year projections, so it's not what we are going to pay in 1 year. It's a 7-year projection from now up until the next 7 years, all right? So a breakdown of this will mean that we will be paying somewhere around 300 and somewhere $386,000 a year. That's what the forecast is, but we haven't negotiated. So what we are asking the board today is to authorize us to begin the negotiations, and that negotiations, we're expecting that the prices will sort of balance down. That's the expectation. If it goes up, we'll see. But we do have we're asking for a good referee to help us in this process. In a nutshell, that's really where we are. That's where we are hoping to go, and these are the implications of it. I'll leave it at that, and I'll now ask for questions.
Anyone? Go ahead, Steven.
Thanks, Victor. So just, I want to be clear on this. So today, for the current solutions, we're paying $237,900. Can you scroll up a little?
So today, let me see.
See it on your screen? Can you guys see it? Oh, you're not logged in. Okay.
I don't have
Currently,
it, no.
sorry.
Was it sent to me?
This is the slide. So currently, this is what we're paying overall
Okay.
annually per
So-
year.
And now that's also on your spreadsheet in green, right? The next chart.
Yeah, the
right?
comparison is, yes, is on
You
the
go back
spreadsheet.
to that.
Okay. Okay, and
And do you have the same, in green, do you have the same on the top and the bottom? Is that just,
237 under current, and then
yeah, so,
this is what we're paying right here in green.
okay.
Yes.
And how do I compare what the 380 that you said we will be paying?
So that represents the hybrid. Now, the RFP, everybody gave us a full package, right? Tyler gave us a full package, and their full package annually is $418,000. BSNA gave us a full package, and their package is $313,000. But if we decide to do the hybrid, where we pick, so you basically you're gonna add this one that we're taking from here, 166,000, add the 20,000 for HR,
Okay,
and then come down here, grab the one for utility management and community development, as well as the 64,000 for tax and assessing. That will give you that number.
which number?
Let me see.
386?
386.
So and I think I'm a little confused as to what's implementation costs and what's
Okay.
software license or service, the cloud service. Is it all in one, or is there also for the cloud applications, are there costs for that?
So everything here based on this proposal, they're all cloud service. That means everything that you see in it includes the software license, it includes the service, the money you pay to be in the cloud, it includes the maintenance agreement, everything, all the price that you see is here. The only difference here, and Chris, you can correct me if I'm wrong, is the individual cost of the implementation. All right, these are this cost here, 1.2 million, is the cost for implementation of Tyler. If we are going with Tyler as a whole package, right? But if we're cherry picking, then this number is not going to be the same. We don't know that yet until we go into the negotiations. And the same thing is applicable to BSNA.
So our costs will be the individual costs that you identified in the top two sections there? And
Yes.
that those are per year?
Per year, yes.
Per year. And then in addition, we have the implementation costs?
Yes,
And that will be somewhere in those ranges?
somewhere in those ranges.
Based on whatever they propose, it will be if we decide to go with the hybrid. Let's just
Yes.
say, for the purposes of discussion, if we're going with the hybrid, it'll be some number less for each of those.
Yes.
60 or 40% of them or something like that. So is that what we expected, or is it more than we expected? Or when we started this process, I don't remember, so.
Chris, you want to take a shot at it in terms of what happens in the industry?
Oh, you probably need to go to the
Go
mic.
to the podium, please, Chris.
Thanks.
So Victor's absolutely right. So an ERP solution involves an initial implementation cost, professional services cost that is non-recurring, that would occur upfront the first year, year and a half of the licensing agreement. And then that annual licensing cost, which, as Victor said, does include licenses, support, help desk services, cloud hosting, software upgrades and patches, et cetera. The ranges that Victor described are within line of what we typically see in the industry and what we've seen with our other government clients. I can't speak to how they fall in line with the district's budget for this project or in comparison to your current costs for ERP. That would be Victor's information.
Thank you.
There is, we tried to project, do some number games, if I may call it. You see this number here, $1.1 million here. This is, we sort of try to do a percentage in terms of percentage of what it may cost us for implementation, right? And then we added it to the individual cost of these modules based on BSNA and Tyler for the first year. Now, again, this is our own internal percentage projections based on the numbers that they've given us. And it means that for the first year, we will be required to have at least not less than $1.2 million to get it to get it started. And then subsequently, we'll be paying just about that $380,000 annually. That's what it is.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Yes.
So how long does the implementation take?
Again, these are part of negotiations, and we'll find the actual time periods, right? Because Tyler gave us a period of, I believe, 24 months for implementation, and BSNA gave us implementation period of between 6 to 8 months. When you're doing hybrid scenario, we have to make sure that the two vendors actually work in such a way that nobody is causing havoc for the other person. So, and also given that they are not implementing the full stack, so we're expecting a lot to happen, that is different from what they've proposed or what they've, given us in their RFP.
So the implementation payment that you're going to do, if, say, for example, for Tyler, if it's more than a year, we are going to break down the implementation cost, or how does it work?
While I would like to say that I don't know, but the expectation is that, Tyler, we're only taking 2 modules from them. And again, in any system, you might realize that the architecture of the system relies heavily on one of the components, all right? And so it might affect how they go about it. We don't know yet. All those things are things that we're going to find out during the negotiations, and make sure that we talk to the two vendors to be clear on that. But the expectation is that, yes, you're right, 2 modules out of 5 shouldn't be a heavy, shouldn't be something that will take us that long, but we don't know.
Okay.
If I
Yeah.
can add, implementation costs in an ERP implementation are typically paid over time
Okay.
as milestones in the implementation are reached. So the 1.2 would most likely, not certain, we'd have to negotiate this, or the township would most likely be paid in a series of payments over a 18, 24-month period.
And we are still going to pay, say, I'm assuming those costs are the annual fees, right? The 360 or something, the hybrid combination that you mentioned, 330 or 340?
Yeah, so we're still going to pay the annual fee, but in this 1.2 million, it includes the original annual fee. If my math is right, yeah.
And one final question I had, say today we give you a go-ahead, how long is it going to take for you to come back to us with a start time for when this process begins, like?
So after today, with your go-ahead, we will begin to contact them and say to them, let's meet and talk first. I don't know, Chris, let's meet and talk first. And then create a deadline, a timeline for us to finish the negotiations. I would like to say, if I want to be bold about that, I will say 2 months. That should give us enough time to be able to get them together. And then if anything changes, we'll come back to the board and let the board know.
Okay, sorry, one more question. So with all these, with all this information, with all the software that you are planning to have, the solution, so is it going to be, is the goal, the final goal is to have the township can do all its transactions virtually with its residents?
So one of the beauty of, yes, certainly, one of the beauty of what we're proposing is that all of this will be in the cloud. And the transactions will definitely open up for public-facing solutions to our residents, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Anyone else? Kate?
Yeah, so the implementation costs are kind of hard to grasp. Can you give us more of a breakdown of what those cover? Like,
For the
I'm
implementation.
thinking training, loading
Yes.
onto machines, and what all are we paying for with those costs?
Chris, you can chime in as well. So for implementation costs, it generally covers, the initial, you start with the process of discovery. You're gonna go through, preparation of your existing data, which really consumes quite a lot of time. And for us, we do have, by the way, extensive amount of data. And so you're going to have to spend some time prepare that data for export to the new environment. Then you're going to have to prepare that environment, do your testing for that environment, and then also you're going to have to do the training before you start thinking about releasing and making it live. And in our case, we are, we have a unique scenario where where we have to have multiple environments per se that talk to each other, depending on what the person is doing. If it's financial model, they know they're going to have to go to the Tyler Munis. And if it's community development, then the one that will be giving access to the public will be the community development component that is, public facing, where they do all, their licensing and all that, those fun stuff. Yeah, so I don't know if I missed any other thing.
No,
That's accurate.
that's helpful. Yeah, thank you.
Anything else? Okay, Victor, if you could send this to the board also as a hard copy, a soft copy.
Sure. Make sure.
Okay, so what's next? Did you have anything else?
So we do have I don't know if it made it to the package because it was kind of late when we got the number, but I'll check. We do have the request to start the negotiations with these two vendors, and the request is to start negotiation and also to extend the help that we've been getting from Plant Moran to assist us in doing so.
And then wherever you come back with that comes back to the board, is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah.
And after that negotiations, then we're going to come back to the board with the final RBA that will have all the numbers, and we'll be able to demonstrate to the board. Remember, we came back with these numbers. We've been able to negotiate, and these are the final numbers that we are going to go with for the next 7 years. Our hope is that we're going to beat the price down. It doesn't always work that way, but we'll certainly try our best to beat it down during the negotiations.
Okay, thank you.
And at that time, the board can then say, okay, let's sign on the dotted line and start the process.
Thank you. Mr. Carr, did you have anything you wanted to add, or
No, thank you.
did you want to, were you, I thought you were.
I was going to make a motion to allow, Madam Supervisor, I move to direct ITI and Township Administration to move forward in negotiations.
Support?
Appropriate.
Support, is that different than item 23?
It's the same.
And never mind.
We're going to make Victor stay to the end of the meeting.
I mean, we can,
We can
well,
move it
once
up.
we
Yeah,
can
we can
move
move
it
it
up if you want. but
Yeah.
that's-
It was item number G23. You want to read that motion, or?
Do it.
You want to read the motion, or just go with your motion?
Supervisor, no, because this is a PO. I move to approve an increase of purchase order 2023-790 by $36,000 to extend the ERP replacement project professional services contract with Plant Moran.
Support,
Motion made by Clerk Seeger, supported by Trustee Snyderman. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Okay, thank you. Next, let's see, it is 6:40, and the regular board meeting begins at 7.
take a break.
So we can take a break until then, because our YAC group has to come in. We have a couple people coming in for that. Okay, so we'll take a break till 7. Actually, is the whole YAC team here then? Just the two of you? Yeah. You guys want, our youth advisory council's here. Do you want to have them go ahead? Okay. Nobody got up. So, yes, they can go ahead. Did you have a presentation you wanted to put on the screen, or? Okay. Oh, you have it? Okay, good.
Good evening. My name is Mansi Khan. I'm a trustee on the Youth Advisory Council. Today I'll be providing a comprehensive report on the Youth Needs Assessment Survey from the 2023 to 2024 years. Go to the next slide, please. Thank you. The Youth Needs Assessment Survey opened in 2023 and was aimed at youth ages 11 to 18 and asked a myriad of questions, ranging from youth education to youth mental health. The questions were meant to provide direction to the Youth Advisory Council regarding the goals and priorities to target for future YAC cycles. Next slide. Thank you. As you can see here, we have collected age demographics of youth that took the assessment. Majority of the gathered information was from the age ranges 15 to 18. Next slide. YAC's emphasis on diversity, equity, and inclusion took heavy focus this cycle. Looking at the provided charts, we can infer that some youth have unfortunately been discriminated against and/or lack the proper support system. YAC believes an increased presence in classes and clubs can alleviate some of these issues that youth are feeling, along with an increased awareness of social issues that youth might be struggling with. Next slide, please. Youth found loneliness, a lack of economic literacy, and gun violence to be the most pressing issues. YAC recommends more events for youth to allow for socialization, along with a greater emphasis placed upon youth enrichment regarding financial literacy, whether that's events coordinated by Informed Youth for Youth, or education provided by informed individuals. They can be adults or volunteers. Next slide, please. In summary, the Youth Needs Assessment identified many key issues affecting youth that are preventable and/or treatable. Our involvement in the youth's ailments will be a part of YAC's future goals and priorities. For future Youth Needs Assessments, YAC recommends shorter questionnaires to allow for increased engagement. On a brighter note, the Youth Needs Assessment did allow the Youth Advisory Council to engage with more groups around the block center, such as Lead Like a Man and Lead Like a Girl. So it was great getting to know those people. Next slide, please. That will conclude our presentation. We will now take some time to answer any questions that the board may have.
Kate?
Thank you. That was really interesting. I was wondering, do you know approximately how many kids took the survey?
As far as I know, the approximation was around 50, yeah.
Okay,
63.
63, okay.
We did see, well, what I saw when I was giving out the QR code for youth to take the survey was that many of them kind of trailed off because the questionnaire was quite long. Yeah, so it's hard to keep youth engaged.
Yeah, yeah, it's hard when you're surveying.
Oh, yeah.
I was also wondering, have you shared the results of this survey with the school districts?
No, we have not.
Okay. I think they would be interested in seeing that. I also hope that, we can work together with them to implement some of the needs that you've identified.
Of course. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yeah, so around like the financial literacy issue, did some of the questions have like, did you ask for like follow-ups, like what that meant? Are we talking about doing your own taxes? Are we talking about budgeting? Are we talking about, when we talk about financial literacy?
As far as I'm aware, most of the questions were regarding if youth were aware on how to do their taxes. It's been a prevalent issue voiced by many youth, well, around America, around the world. These more practical educations and practical skills, youth have wanted a greater emphasis on that in their educations. But I'm pretty sure the questions were fairly just, are you able to file your taxes? Are you aware of how to do that?
Yeah. I've always, I remember from, I'm 40 now, but I remember as I entered adulthood and got my first job, it is interesting what little emphasis we put on some of those kind of key things, like, the notion that you have to do your own taxes, and you have to, you do the work, and you submit it to the government tells you if you did it correct or not, and there really is there's a gap in that process. So that's interesting. I'm curious if that kind of came up too as one of the number three issues. The second issue, I think you said loneliness was number one.
A feeling of isolation, and the other one was a fear of like gun violence.
Gun violence, which is also
Oh, yeah.
interesting, because I think today is the 1-year anniversary of the shooting at Michigan State University.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, wow, okay. And then I also found it interesting, like the initial slide talking about DEI, or diversity, equity, inclusion initiatives and things like that. I know, we elect people to school boards, and every time, especially for the last 3 years, I would say, the campaigns sometimes, every couple of years, come down to whether or not you think that those kind of initiatives or those kind of investments are beneficial or not. And it's interesting to see how adults talk about those issues and how important those things are to adults, versus how important they are to the youth. There seems to be a little bit of a disconnect, which tells me in a few years that issue, which is a social tension issue, might go away, as some people exit and other people ascend into adulthood. That's fascinating. This is I really appreciate this initiative, and I think the feedback about shortening down the questionnaire length is probably a really good thing to focus on if you're going to continue to do this. Is there an intention to do this every year, or?
As far as I know, uh,
Okay. Yeah. Be curious to see what we do with the isolationist dilemma, because your generation is probably the most connected generation, at least digitally, than any other generation in history. Yet elevating isolation as the number one issue is an interesting, ironic paradox, but something that we got to figure out. I don't know that we have a good answer for. Thank you.
no problem.
I was just going to say thank you for the information on the survey. There was some good information in there. And I agree with Trustee Bornensky. I think the school district would, love to see that information, and even potentially in future years partner with you to make sure that students are seeing the survey and able to fill it out, because I think that they would want that information to better serve the kids in the school district as well. So thank you for being so thoughtful. And I think, all of us as a community have to think about the isolation issues surrounding youth, because it does impact all of us, and it impacts how they grow into the future and, become adults. So thank you.
Of course.
Emery?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for presenting today. If you could send us this presentation, that would be helpful to our emails. I'd like to read through it a little more and see what the different items are. I think it's a good suggestion to reach out to the school district. For each of these things, I was wondering if you were going to get together as a committee and brainstorm ideas on how to address these things and bring them forward.
Hopefully, yes. As far as I know, we're not just going to sit here with this information. We do plan on doing stuff with it.
Okay, well, I mean, I think we'd like to partner with you on it. I mean, I think Leisure Services has some things, as you mentioned, to address some of these things, but maybe there's newer programming that we could do. And again, the school district also might want to find ways to, or take your suggestions and run with them One thing that I wanted to mention, because we've kind of focused on the loneliness or detachment issue in the world today, is the Canton Foundation. They already have a program. It's called the Porch Program, but it's only, the intent was to address loneliness for all ages, but right now they've only addressed it in the senior communities. But that wasn't the original intention. And of course, we ran into COVID and that kind of put everything on hold. And they've just started up again, reaching out into the senior communities. But the intention always was also the two groups, and it's so weird, isn't it? The two groups that that have loneliness issues the most are the seniors and the youth of our world. And I think that maybe if you reached out to Beth Mead at the foundation and the leaders of the Porch Program, they would be interested to have a discussion on how they could help, because there's some funding there to do things to address that issue.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for this presentation. It was very insightful to see the top issues. And as Stephen said, I was part of the Porch program, like when it started before COVID. And what I noticed were the seniors had a great time when the youth came and participated with them. So maybe there could be some sort of a connection there, and that could happen, like we can work on with the foundation on that, and, the other suggestions that he had.
Of course. I know many of my peers are already working with some seniors as part of volunteer programs or maybe just even jobs. I see many of them find it to be an enriching experience. So I think putting a good emphasis on that and getting it out there to the youth could be beneficial to youth mental health and feelings of social isolation. Thank you.
So thank you very much. I guess I want to say, or one of your questions, including before COVID and after COVID, or this was just basically how they're feeling right now in time?
This is after COVID, 2023 to 2024.
Okay.
Right?
I know some of the things you talk about, I know, as was said, the school district does have some programs like this, and that's why the feedback, as was said, also would be important to them, because it kind of shows that they're trying, but maybe not reaching everybody, and that's important. I know even with mental health and, some of the suicides that occurred there, they started some programs like OK to Say, basically students, as you probably know, reaching out to each other, and if they see something, to let the counselors know or staff know or other students. And so, some of it was supposed to help reach out for that. So this would show that it's probably not getting the reach that it was supposed to. But they do have a lot of good programs, and actually some social workers that they hired. So that's why this is additional information.
Of course. Yep. Thank you.
We also do have a, I don't know if you guys talk to our embedded social worker also, if you ever interface with her. Okay, because I know, sometimes families go to her and maybe there's youth involved there also. So maybe you could look at even how that would, what she's seeing, and if it's the same thing. Okay. All right, well, thank you very much. Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you. I know you're going to be doing a presentation for us soon on working with the board in different ways. Yep. Okay. Did you have another presentation?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a couple updates regarding our 2024 grant cycle and DEI activities at the block. The Youth Advisory Council has officially opened its 2024 grant cycle to Canton. It's easily accessible via a link on the Canton Community Foundation website. We can also offer some hard copies to the board if they so please.
That on the Facebook. Is that for the community also then? Where do you put that on Facebook or on our social media? You share that with the school district also? The school districts, I should say? That include all the school districts then? Ah, I see.
I would also like to provide an update on the DEI boards at the Block Center. Our DEI boards for January and February have been put up. For January, we themed the DEI board around the MLK Day, and for February, we did a Lunar New Year's theme. We have also been able to fill some displays around the Block Center through the DEI activities that are included with the creation of said boards.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. That brings us to almost 7 o'clock. So in beginning the regular board meeting, can I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
Madam Supervisor, I move to adopt the agenda, removing item G16. And, what?
23.
23, sorry.
23, we did vote on that already.
I just, okay.
Voted on it. Okay. Can I have a support?
Support.
Motion made by Clerk Seeger, supported by Trustee Foster. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes for January 16th and January 23rd, 2024?
So moved.
Motion made by Clerk Seeger, supported by Trustee Brunensky. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Can I have a motion to pay the bills?
We want to do public comment on agenda items only?
Yeah, I'll do that after the bills.
You want me to?
We have to do it in that order.
Madam Supervisor, I move to pay the bills.
Support.
Motion made by Clerk Seeger, supported by Trustee Snyderman. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes. All right, now we will have public comment on agenda items only for 3 minutes. Oh, actually, anyone in the room? Public comment on agenda items only?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Bikramjit Saini. I'm here on behalf of YAC.
I'm sorry, could you speak a little bit louder closer to the microphone? Sorry, thanks.
Apologies. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Bikramjit Saini. I am here on behalf of YAC. We have some questions for all of you. Starting on number G6 for Mr. Norwood. How will residents be informed about the rules for the compost, and will the days that the garbage trucks come change? Continuing on number G13 for Mr. Hohenberger, how might the purchase of utility vehicle contribute to improving the experience and safety of youth engaging in recreational activities? And on number G14 for Mr. LaFever, how does the Commission for Culture, Arts, and Heritage plan to engage and involve youth in cultural activities with these new additions? Continuing on, number G17 for Mr. LaFever again. If the grant is rewarded, what would be the outcome if the money from the grant still remains? Will it be invested in the trail or in something else? And on to number G22 for Mr. Segrist. What lead to the addition of 9 more in-person voting days? And along with that, when will the election operation policy be further updated after this item is approved? And lastly, for Mr. Ibigu, how much of a difference will having only one of these vendors make? And will approval of this item affect the time for the EPR replacement project?
I think so.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Madam Supervisor, if I can, the Youth Council in their wisdom have provided these questions to the directors as well, a copy. So
Oh, good.
the directors, when the items come up, can address the questions within that time.
Okay, good, thank you. Question, okay, can I, anyone else in the room for agenda item only questions? Okay,
Comments.
Mr. McCausland?
Good evening. So I'd like to see if we can reserve time for G3, G6, and G7. G3, we are the project sponsor. So when those items come up, can we comment at that time?
Yes, if you're the sponsor, you will talk
Okay.
during that time, yes.
Okay. And G6 and G7? Or do you need a comment now on G6?
No, if it's not your item, then you would comment now.
Okay. So real quick, Dan McCausland, 328 North Haggerty. I'd like to comment about G6, which is the up-and-coming trash contract. I did attend a study session. Couple questions I see that I would have for the proposal. Is there going to be a public dump site or yard for the residents? And will that replace or supersede the Canton cleanup? Will there be acceptance of bulk, brush, et cetera, by the new vendor? And where will that yard be located, and what will be the access hours? Because as you know, if people cannot access to dispose things, it ends up being dumped in the community. Two, had we looked at maybe the contract is too long, maybe 2 years with a renewal based on performance? Three, is there an opt-out clause for service levels? And four, happy to see that automated trash is an option, but I'd also like to see, how about families that generate more than one cart per week? What are their options? I.e. an additional cart? Was there going to be extra dump fees for the additional cart? Excuse me. Bulk waste that's put at the curb? What will they do with furniture, appliances, et cetera? Trash that exceeds the size of the cart. I'm very familiar with a cart-style pickup in another community. It does work well, but there is a conflict when you, A, have refuse that's larger than the cart, B, you have refuse that is not allowed in the cart, and C, when you need additional carts. Because what has happened, if there's excess trash that flows over the cart, the automated truck driver generally will not get out of the truck to retrieve that trash, and then you have, again, trash lying on the ground. So I think it's a good fundamental start, but I don't think we're quite there yet. Because if we get locked in for 5 years, how are we going to address those issues? And I know those came up in the study session because I asked those questions, but there really wasn't a definitive answer at that time. And then I guess on G7, we will hold comment till after we hear the presentation about G7, so we could comment at the end. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else in the room? Public comment? Okay, I'm going to go online. We have 2 attendees online. If you want to make public comment, please raise your hand. Public comment, no public comment, and no public comment. Okay, great. So public comment on agenda items only is closed. We are going to go to the next item on the agenda, which is, we already did the presentations, the consent calendar. Can I have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
Madam Supervisor, I move that the board adopt and approve the consent calendar as presented. Item C1, request budget amendment for the carryover of fiscal year 2023 open purchase orders to fiscal year 2024. C2, consider approval of an extension of the contract with ARC Document Solutions for continuous scanning of the Building and Inspection Services Division documents. C3, consider approval of the purchase of one 2024 Ford Transit for facility services. C4, consider approval of a 3-year contract extension with HydroCorp Incorporated to continue Canton's commercial cross-connection control program and purchase order increase. C5, consider award of design for Heritage Park and maintenance facility to Wade Trim. And finally, C6, consider approval of elevator maintenance service agreement with Otis Elevator Company.
Support.
Motion made by Clerk Seeger, supported by Trustee Borninski. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Moving on to the general calendar, item G1, consider award of a contract to Berkshire Development for the demolition of a dangerous building at 1822 Sheldon Road North.
Madam Supervisor, I confirm the order of the hearing officer and the township board to approve the demolition of 1822 Sheldon Road North and to authorize the building official to award a contract to Berkshire Development for an amount not to exceed $21,430.
Support.
Motion made by Clerk Seeger, supported by Trustee Borninski. The structures located at 1822 Sheldon Road North, Canton, Michigan, have been in a state of disrepair for some time. As well as being an unsafe structure, it has a rotted exterior, evidence of mold, and the entire property is in general state of disrepair. The police have been there multiple times for vagrants, and the interior water lines have burst, causing the township to shut off the water at the road. The property more than meets the definition of a nuisance. On July 28, 2021, a dangerous building hearing was held. The dangerous building hearing officer determined the structure needed to be demolished. The owner failed to appear at the township's board show cause hearing on January 25th, 2022, and has also failed to demolish the structure in the time allotted by MCLE 125.541, Section 141, after the township board approved the demolition of the structures. The township's building division pursued the demolition. The township advertised for bids on March 3rd, 2022, and the bids were opened on March 17, 2022. 8 bids were submitted. The lowest qualified bidder received was from Berkshire Development in the amount of $21,430 for the main house and the small shed. Director Norwood, do you have anything to add?
Thank you, Madam Supervisor. Just a few things. As you know, some of these dates are rather old. This particular issue was litigated in court over quite some period of time. We were successful in that litigation, and we pursued demolition, and the owner decided to take it down themselves. They obtained a permit to do that, but they stopped short of getting the soil erosion issues resolved in Wayne County because it's near a drain. Then we lost contact with them. So we are proceeding now, the township, to take it down, and we will lien the property with the cost of demolition.
Thank you. Any questions from the board? I know we've seen this one before. Michael?
I'm just really excited that this is finally happening. It's been a couple of years now. I remember 2 years ago, there was evidence that individuals were living in there, living by candlelight, burning open flame in there. That's why we had it boarded up, and it's been a nuisance building for quite some time. Every time I drive past it, I've been really concerned that somebody, a neighborhood kid, would end up in there. I'm glad we finally got the okay to move forward on this.
Else? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Item G2, consider first reading of an amendment to Appendix A zoning of the Code of Ordinances to amend several sections related to variances, interpretations, appeals, and related standards.
Madam Supervisor, I move to introduce holding the first reading of the proposed amendment to Appendix A zoning of the Code of Ordinances of the Charter Township of Canton, provided in the attached ordinance, which amends the preamble ordinance title, Section 103, definitions, Sections 218, signs, Article 3, nonconformities, Section 4.01, off-street parking requirements, Article 6, site development standards applicable to specific uses, Article 6A, signs, Article 7, performance standards, Article 8, establishment of zoning districts and map, Article 27, general procedures and related standards, and Section 2904.04, zoning board of appeals, and to add Sections 27.12, public hearings, and Section 27.13, public notices.
Support.
Motion made by Clerk Seeger, supported by Trustee Snyderman. The proposed amendment to the Canton Township zoning ordinance will update and streamline standards related to variances, interpretations, and appeals, as well as modify other areas of the zoning ordinance related to the zoning board of appeals modifications and nonconformities. Director Norwood, do you have anything to add?
Thank you, Madam Supervisor. I don't have anything to add, but Community Planner Patrick Sloan is also here to answer any questions.
Any questions or comments? Tanya?
This has been, I'm thankful for the planner, the planning commission, and the zoning board to work on this, to update these ordinances, and so bring them up to date on what's going on in the current, the way we want to see our township zoning to be, and making the, some of the scenarios much clearer on this. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, Stephen?
Yeah, thank you. I agree with trustee Ganguly. Patrick, I was just wondering if I read that there were formerly 18 criteria and they were reduced to 7. Can you characterize how that change was made and what the effect of it is?
Sure. So currently in the zoning ordinance, we've got several criteria that apply when somebody a decision is made on a zoning variance. And a lot of the criteria are older, though they're not obsolete, and some of them generate from state law, some of them generate from case law over a number of years. And what we found over the last few years in planning and zoning is we can still have the same general legal criteria that are applicable for variances, but do so in a shorter number of criteria. So for example, instead of having criteria for many different types of practical difficulties, we include a definition of practical difficulty that include all those elements. So one of the criteria is whether there's a practical difficulty or not. So that dramatically shortens the number of criteria. Some of them are consolidated, some of them are not applicable in general. So we were able to streamline it, although the process of reviewing variances will be the same. I don't think it'll change any outcomes in the long run in terms of the basic criteria. It will just make it easier for the Zoning Board of Appeals to move through those criteria, as well as for our Zoning Board of Appeals applicants who have to fill out the form and write a letter showing how they meet those criteria.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Summer?
I will just give a huge thank you to the planning staff, especially Patrick and Aaron, for walking the Planning Commission through all of these changes. We spent a lot of time on these in a few meetings, so thank you for that. And, you know, doing the different scenarios, and I had no idea there were so many different types of signs, but thank you for all of your work on this and walking the Planning Commission through it.
Thank you. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Item G3, consider amendment to Appendix A zoning of the Code of Ordinances regarding IMAC Properties LLC rezoning.
Madam Supervisor, I moved to deny the application to rezone the 8 subject parcels in subject to planning application parcel from MRD Mid-Rise Development and Corporate Park Overlay District to C4 Interchange Service District, as the proposal does not meet the following standards of Section 27.06 D4 of the zoning ordinance. 1, the proposed amendment is not in accordance with the basic intent and purpose of the zoning ordinance. 2, the proposed amendment is inconsistent with Canton's comprehensive plan, which recommends the subject site to be C3, regional commercial, and CBD overlay. 3, while conditions have changed since the zoning ordinance was adopted, the comprehensive plan recommends C3 and CBD overlay on the subject site to replace the Corporate Park Overlay District and the MRD Mid-Rise Development District. 4, rezoning the subject site to C4 would grant special privileges because it is not supported by the comprehensive plan and there are no C4 zoned properties without an overlay district, CPOD or CBD, anywhere along Ford Road. 5, the proposed amendment will set an inappropriate precedent, especially for commercially zoned parcels in the CBOD, because it is contrary to the policies of the comprehensive plan and could be a precursor for other owners in the CPOD to make the same application. 6, the C4 district is inconsistent with the existing land uses of surrounding property and is inconsistent with the trends in land development in the general vicinity, including commercial properties developed under the design standards of an overlay district.
Support.
Motion made by Clerk Seeger, supported by Trustee Foster. The applicant proposes to rezone 8 parcels from MRD Mid-Rise Development and Corporate Park Overlay District to C4 Interchange Service District. The parcels are located on the south side of Ford Road between I-275 and Lots Road. The subject parcels total approximately 3.15 acres. If the parcels are rezoned to C4, the applicant proposes a development that includes a fueling and electric vehicle charging station, convenience store with pickup window, medical office clinic, and professional office. In the C4 district, medical offices and professional offices are permitted land uses, and the automobile filling stations with associated convenience stores and fast food restaurants are special land uses. At its meeting on January 8, 2024, the Planning Commission held a public hearing and voted 5-3 to recommend denial of the application. Director Norwood, do you want to add anything?
Thank you, Madam Supervisor. I do not have anything to add, but Patrick Sloan, Community Planner, is here to answer any questions.
Patrick, do you want to add anything?
I have nothing additional to add beyond what's in the staff report and the Planning Commission meeting minutes, but I'll be happy to take any questions.
Okay, Trustee Foster, I know you were on the Planning Commission. Do you want to offer any?
No, I think the Planning Commission minutes are sufficient to explain what happened in our meeting.
Okay, Mr. McCausland, you said you wanted to come up?
Daniel McCausland, 2011 Lots Road, representing IMAC. Quick summary, IMAC applied for relief from the Corporate Park Overlay District for parcels 8 located in the front portion of the property IMAC owns on the southwest corner of Ford and Lots Road. IMAC proposed to remove the parcels from the Corporate Park Overlay District and return to the original underlying zoning of C4 Interchange Service, which is the proper zoning for the proposed fuel and charging center, proposed to be constructed along with the professional building on the parcels 4 to the west. The center will be unique and make a tremendous asset to the motoring public as well as the Canton community. The Planning Commission had a positive response to the overall project, with 3 of the panel voting yes for the zoning change, but unfortunately the remainder of the panel of the commission voted no. We believe the vote was not for the reason of wanting to deny the request, but for the issue of not wanting to go against the opinion of the community planner and the planning department's written opinion for denial. So we would opt to the wanting to revert back this. So this placed the Planning Commission and IMAC in an awkward position, as the commissioners had stated that they would have, 2 commissioners at least had come forward and said they would have voted yes if what they perceived would be a vote not following the recommendations made by the planning department. So they didn't want to set a precedent to go against the planning department. However, the ones that voted yes opted to. And IMAC was confident that the request was in accordance with the correct policies and procedures of the township. So the history, IMAC purchased the property, the original property, for its intended use and zoning classification of interchange service. IMAC has operated on the site since 1988 under the guise of an automotive service business as Max Auto Equipment. The commercial building, 39933 Ford Road, corner of Ford and Lots, was developed new as Andy Pelk BMW Motorcycle Sales and Service, which IMAC took over. So it's the request. IMAC's position that the request is reasonable, allowing the Corporate Park Overlay District to be removed and reverting the property back to its base underlying zoning of C4 Interchange Service to be utilized is not unrealistic in its request. In fact, it is IMAC's position that this is a legal vested right that the Township Board should consider when making this request an ultimate decision. The Planning Department states that although the property will be revert back to C4 Interchange Service, it's their opinion that the property should change to C3 with yet another overlay, that being the Central Business District overlay, which has been implemented in other properties in the township. IMAC disagrees with this finding based on the area has been burdened with the Corporate Park overlay for 30-plus years, all resulting in a stagnant development pattern for the entire corridor. Other properties in the corridor have been granted relief, and even zoning classification changes, as from i.e. industrial to residential, have occurred in approved developments. In conclusion, IMAC is requesting that the Township Board reverse the recommendation of the Planning Commission, grant the request to remove the corporate park overlay, and return the properties to its legal underlying zoning classification, that being C4 interchange service, which is what the properties were purchased under. In granting the zoning request, IMAC can move forward with a highly viable project immediately, turning it over to the end-user developer who was more than capable to bring the project to total fruition under the guidelines, processes, and procedures necessary in working with the township. It's also critical to grant the C4 zoning, as the balance of the IMAC property is under discussion with some highly qualified candidates for redevelopment for a similar high-tech automotive business use requiring C4 zoning. One of the interested parties is Bosch Automotive North America, a prestigious company which operates technology centers in key strategic locations. The IMAX site could accommodate a new Bosch Business Automotive Center. For this to happen, it will take flexibility, cooperation, and participation from strategic partners, including the township, to enter into this new era of technologies. So basically what we're saying, your denial is going to, again, fuel the stagnation of the area. Because how many times have we got up here and complained about the corporate park overlay? Now here's our chance to bring basically two wonderful projects to the community. The first being the charging center, the second being a partnership with Bosch. You know, I used to say when Bosch went to Plymouth Township for their headquarters, I always got up here and said, why can't we ever get somebody like Bosch in the corporate park overlay? Well, here's a second bite at the apple, some 30 years later, to get a Bosch service center. That's pretty prestigious. And they will partner with EV dealers. They will partner with many, many, many manufacturers, because Bosch is a highly integrated company. And if we could only bring Bosch to that site, there's only going to be a couple key strategic locations, and we're one of them. We've been approached and had numerous conversations that are going to go nowhere if we can't keep that C4 interchange service. Same thing with the development on the corner. Now we're speaking about what the master plan says. Well, the master plan is not really taking everything in account. That's just an opinion. It's like the corporate park overlay. It was an opinion. But basis what? What somebody thought? We bought the property being car guys. I always use this comparison. If you bought a property on the lake and you were told you bought lake property, but then you were told you couldn't use the water, what would your reaction be? This has been our dilemma for the last 30 years. So here it is. We could have relief. We already have commitment for the corner, for the two projects on the corner, which will be outstanding. And here we are, two guys that would like to see a legacy of automotive carried on that site in a very highly respectful way. And I think you're making a huge mistake by denying this. It's absolutely a huge mistake, because it's just not right. But what's going to happen, like I said, when you see it in another community, you're going to turn around and say, what happened? So this is why I'm telling you tonight. If you see this use in another community, you're going to look back and say, what happened? And we're going to be sitting in a corporate park overlay, which has been called before by members of this community the desolate zone. And that's how we feel. So two guys that are beating their heads against the wall to try to move the ball forward downfield are just getting tackled. And we could only do this for so much longer. So I would hope you would reconsider, absolutely, because some of the Planning Commission members got it right, and I can understand the perspective of the others. So I think it should be I think it should be held for reconsideration. Thank you.
You can stay up here, Mr. McCausland, if you want to answer any questions. I don't know, does the board have any questions? I guess I'm a little confused. I thought that at the planning commission, it was a filling station, a gas station?
No, it's a charging filling station, convenience store. I can't disclose who it is. It's very cutting edge. It's very dynamic. You will be impressed. If it's, like I said, I have very high standards. If it's good enough for me, it's good enough, I believe others will enjoy it. It's going to be a synergy for that area.
It's
said that before.
rezoning, right? It's not,
No, it's reverting back to our base zoning.
it's
See, that's where the
rezoning.
confusion is. We are not rezoning. We're reverting. We're removing the corporate park overlay and using our existing zoning, which we're being forced to
So-
give up.
Excuse me, Mr. Sloan, the current zoning there is,
C3.
Current zoning is mid-rise district and corporate park overlay district.
thank you.
And could you explain a little bit about why you're suggesting to deny this and what they should do maybe instead?
Sure. So the proposed zoning is MR.
Might want to speak a little closer to
Okay.
the microphone.
The current zoning is MRD mid-rise district with corporate park overlay. And the proposal is to rezone the property to C4. And the proposal also includes removing the corporate park overlay and not having any overlay on the property. So the proposal is just for the property to be rezoned to C4. The application is for a rezoning, and in previous discussions with the applicants, as well as in our initial staff report with our development review committee, as well as through email correspondence, we've informed the applicants that the current comprehensive plan recommends the C3 district with the central business district overlay on the site for this area north of Willow Creek and along Ford Road. So that has been staff's position throughout. And there's another application later on tonight's agenda in the same area that was previously in the corporate park overlay district and recently was rezoned out of the corporate park overlay district to the C3 district and the central business district overlay. So in terms of property being rezoned out of the corporate park overlay and into the central business district, in accordance with the recommendation of the comprehensive plan, that's something that has recently taken place on the east side of 275 along Ford Road. With respect to the proposed uses, whenever somebody proposes to rezone property, the application requests that they state their intended uses. It doesn't mean that they have to pursue those uses or that they even will pursue those uses. It's just something on the application for an applicant to include. The application also requires a concept layout sketch if there's one available. So there's a sketch that's been prepared by the applicants, and their intended use, as stated, was a fuel station, a convenience store, and attached drive-through fast food restaurant. But that doesn't necessarily mean that if the property was to be rezoned to C4, that the applicant must do those uses. If the property is rezoned to C4, all uses in the C4 district would be available to the applicant to make an application under. So this is, in terms of proposed uses, it's more illustrative than anything. What's proposed is a rezoning application without conditions. So there are no conditions proposed as part of this application, and the township can't ask for any conditions with the application. And finally, regarding the staff recommendation for the C3 and central business district overlay, our recommendation again is based on the policies of the comprehensive plan. And also, if the uses stated by the applicant were to be proposed, although a fuel station is not allowed in the C3 district unless under certain circumstances, the applicants would be able to apply for a planned development district or a PDD, which does allow for any use in the ordinance to be considered and proposed as part of a PDD, as long as it's not an industrial use. So there are other options available under the zoning ordinance where the applicant, whether it's the current applicant or any applicant, wants to pursue a gas station other than just going with a rezoning and a subsequent special land use. The planned development district option is available, and it is one that staff has recommended if the applicants want to pursue the intended uses. That way, the goals and strategies of the comprehensive plan can be upheld, and an application can move forward where the intended use can be presented in accordance with the comprehensive plan and the zoning ordinance.
Okay.
I take exception to that because Mr. Sloan is negating to tell you that the underlying base zoning is C4, and he's dancing around that, and I'm going to call him out on that. The corporate park overlaid on top of C4. For example, the development that was just approved last week to the south, which is formerly known as Tremont Place, had an underlying zoning of industrial, and it was changed to R6. We're not asking to change the underlying zoning. We're asking to remove the corporate park overlay and allow us to use our zoning, what we purchased the property under. Anything short of that's a taking. That's a taking. And that's where the problem is, and I'm not going to be argumentative about it because let me tell you this. The people that are going to do this are top-notch at what they're doing. And they're going to make it work. And they're going to work with the Planning Commission. Nobody's trying to pull nothing fast. Nobody's trying to assign it. We're going to follow it through. We're not going to develop it, but we're certainly going to make sure they develop it. But what's going to happen when you listen to all that overlays on top of that and everything else, you know what they're going to say? Goodbye. It's simply too complicated. Now, and that's going to be a loss for us. It's going to be a loss for this community because we're not following it cohesively. We are not. When you have residential down the street being approved, the golf across the street being approved, which is okay, and then all of a sudden, now we're down to the finite line between the creek and Ford Road. So now we're even being punished further. Now we're down to the creek is another border. What is it going to be down to next? A line right through a parcel? Where do we stop with this? Where is enough enough? It hasn't worked. We give an opportunity to free the zone up and take away like I always say, we've been in handcuffs for 30 years. Let private business show what can be done versus public governmental regulation. Bosch North America is not going to build something that's not presentable. Look it online. Look at their service centers online. They're worldwide.
Okay, does the board have any questions based on the Planning Commission meetings or what Mr. Sloan said?
I will just quickly make a comment. Mr. McCausland brought up the Topgolf, which is on the agenda for later today, and the residential that came before the Planning Commission. I believe it was last week.
Correct.
Last week. The Topgolf is a PDD that we approved, right? And what about the residential? I can't remember.
Sure, the residential community, that was a conditional rezoning that was approved a number of years ago.
Yeah.
And then subsequently, a PDD was approved.
Right, that's what I thought. Okay, thank you.
So I think what you're saying is basically they can get to where they want to go. We're just recommending the process of the PDD like you did with Topgolf and across the street like Trustee Foster just said.
That is not true because the automotive use is not permitted in the PDD.
But you had said that if we get there in terms of your recommendations with the PDD and working with us like you did with Topgolf, we can get to where we need to get.
That's counterintuitive because it's contradictory to the master plan. So why would we get there if we're following the master plan? Why are we going to then supersede the master plan with more processes when we can just simply go C4 and use the property as it was intended? What is happening? Let me tell you honestly what's happening. The planning department wants to eliminate C4 highway service zoning. They're trying to eliminate it. And that's not correct. That's not the legal way to do this. And you're forcing us into C3 with these overlays. Now, the overlays, I'm sure, could be negotiated into the project, but we cannot lose that foundational zoning to go ahead and court these companies to come here for these projects. You know, we're talking EV vehicles, we're talking the future. It's going to be, you know, it's going to be the action there. Let's face it, it's highway service. The definition of highway service, read it in the zoning code, is 1 mile from the interstate. I mean, how could it be any easier? Why are we making this so complex? Why are we fighting this so bad? I don't understand. Would you rather see a big box store there or an EV center? Ask yourself that.
Any other questions from the board? Nope. So I think it's a good idea. I think that if we work like our planning department has stated, as Topgolf has in the surrounding, I think we'll get there. I mean, I just think if you bring everybody to the table, I think we'll get there with the plan that was stated. Bringing the PDD in, bringing your Bosch or your gas station to the table with you, I think you will find that you will get where you need to get. But I think that we need to have the input, and that's why the PDD is important here, in my opinion.
I don't think so, because there's too many hurdles. On the PDD, there's too many hurdles. We've already had these conversations with Mr. Norwood and Mr. Haver. We've had these conversations. It's not obtainable in a PDD unless you're going to break your own rules. So guarantee me tonight you're going to break your own rules, and we'll go out and do that. Tell me on the camera right now that you will break those rules to accommodate those developments.
Pardon?
Patrick raised his hand.
Oh, go ahead, Patrick.
Yeah, there's just some points of fact that I just wanted to restate, that the current zoning of the property is MRD with corporate park overlay. So that's the current zoning on the zoning map. It has been for several years. So there's no error in the zoning map that we're aware of. That property was rezoned to MRD with corporate park overlay a number of years ago. So I just wanted to state that the existing zoning, as it's stated on the zoning map, is correct. It has been that way for several years. We're not aware of any errors. And in terms of the PDD, it is a process. It is an optional process, but it is a process that many developers have used, especially those along Ford Road that are in an existing overlay district. So it's something that we're used to working with, something that the Planning Commission Board is used to working with. So it is something that's not a foreign concept along Ford Road.
Mr. Sloan, I have a lot of respect for you, but I'm going to question you on this. The corporate park overlay was township initiated. None of the landowners voted for it. It was township initiated. There was many, many arguments of legal minds and scholars that said it was an illegal taking to impede those properties with a township-initiated overlay district, i.e., a taking, a governmental taking of the property. I'm not going to stand up here and argue with you guys, your panel, because it was before your time. But you certainly have to realize that if you're going to foster that type of behavior, you're just continuing that travesty.
Okay, Stephen, you had a question or comment?
Yeah. I think, first of all, we've discussed this, I think, the 11 years I've been on the board, and you've discussed it with our predecessors, and it's understandable. I think this board does want to get to a place where you're envisioning, and we're supportive of that. I spent a good amount of time today with the planner to understand the history and what exactly is being asked for here. Mr. Sloan, one thing, I think it was in the actual motion, but there was something about setting precedent with the C4. Can you explain that?
Sure. So if the proposed zoning were to be approved, it would set several precedents. First of all, with respect to an overlay district, along Ford Road on the east side of 275 is the Corporate Park Overlay District, and Ford Road on the west side of 275 is the Central Business District Overlay. And so Ford Road, for the most part, is covered with an overlay district. Specifically from the township's eastern boundary all the way west to about 1,200 feet west of Canton Center Road is covered by an overlay district. So along Ford Road, those overlay districts have had an effect on the uses, the mix of uses, the interconnection of the uses, landscaping, lighting, architecture, a number of different things as the corridor has been built out under those overlay districts. If there was going to be a parcel along the frontage that was rezoned outside of the overlay district, a lot of the standards that are part of either of those overlay districts, whether it's additional landscaping or lighting or setbacks, those go away and could make for an inconsistent development of the property that that's not seen anywhere along Ford Road in our commercial areas. So that's one of the precedent concerns just in terms of design and the character of having an overlay along the frontage. And that overlay is consistent in many respects with the DDA boundaries. It's not exactly the DDA boundaries, but one of the goals of the overlay districts is to realize some of the vision of the DDA along that corridor. Another precedent would be that if the property were to be rezoned to C4 without an overlay, it could be a precedent for other properties in the area to do likewise. So if there were other properties that wanted to get out of any kind of an overlay and eventually submit a special land use application for a gas station, this would set a precedent for such an application to do that. And in evaluating another application for a C4, the first thing that we look for is the master plan. However, if in this case we were going against the master plan's policies, then our master plan would become less of a defense in future cases, not just for C4, but any case where we want to use the comprehensive plan as a defense. So it does open the door for other C4 zone parcels without overlays elsewhere in the district, which could result in a proliferation of gas stations or other uses within that district without having an overlay or something else there like a PDD where the township has a little bit more of a participatory role in the design and development process.
I in talking about this over the years, we've always discussed that it seemed like the central business district overlay was more forgiving than the corporate overlay that was on the east side of 275. And so I thought was always that if we could get to extending basically the DDA-like rules and regulations through the central business district overlay to the east side, that would be beneficial for not just the McCausland's property, but all the properties there. So when we did it for Top Golf, I was actually, excuse me, I was actually encouraged that we had done that. And so I would encourage you to just give that a chance to see if we can operate under that, like Top Golf has, those rules to get to where you want to go. But you said, trust us.
How about this? How about a C4 with an overlay standard?
I don't know what that would
That's the
mean or how it
solution.
means.
That's
But
the
if you did, Top Golf also did a PDD that allowed for a variance. And apparently C3 allows for a PD that can allow for a variance for a gas station.
It blocks the automotive use.
Patrick, you mean the Bosch
Yes,
piece?
yes.
Could that still be a possibility under the C3 with a PDD?
Well, the first thing I'll say is until tonight, I have not heard the Bosch use
It's new,
proposed It's something that's new to me tonight, so I don't know what the use entails, and I haven't looked at anything in terms of what they would do, their processes, their services. But what I can say is that there are automotive services uses that are in the central business district overlay along Ford Road, west of I-275. And the most recent one was at BJ's Wholesale, where a couple of years ago when they moved in, they have a tire center that was approved as an ancillary automotive service as part of that use. Automotive service stations are special land uses in the central business district overlay. In commercial areas, we do have auto service stations along the corridor, places to get oil changed, places to get tires, brakes, exhaust, things like that. So it's not a prohibited use along the corridor, but it is a special land use in most cases for auto service, for minor repair.
And since it's just brought forward tonight, I think we should have some discussions on whether that can be done under the suggestion of the planning department. And if that's the case, and if what you say is true with your discussions with the planning, members of the planning commission, that they liked the project, that they would just vote for it if it followed the process that is being outlined, then it sounds like you're going to get what you want.
That's a false narrative, because.
That was your narrative.
No, but I'm saying what Mr. Sloan is saying. I know what my narrative is.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, we've brought forward car dealer, new car dealer,
Yeah.
right? High-end car dealer. That was told no, only on Michigan Avenue, right? Because an ordinance was passed that said you could, see, all the time has gone by while we have been shopping for the correct use.
Well, I'm
but
not sure
everything
I
has
would want a
changed.
car dealership on that property. I mean, in that area on
Really?
Ford Road.
Why?
Yeah, it doesn't seem consistent with what is trying to be done with Ford Road.
What is trying to be done? Wouldn't you want to see a multi-million-dollar high-end car dealer that sold EV cars, potentially all EV cars, or the new fuels of the future, along with the station at the corner that would service those cars? Doesn't that make a correct development?
Perhaps I'd have to see the
In
designs
highway
and things like
service,
that, but,
because,
yeah.
right, but how can we keep talking to these folks when they say you don't have the correct zoning?
Well, let's start with where we are, or what you're asking for, and I recommend, pursuing the C3 zoning with the PDD to allow the township. But
I'm going to tell you what happened. I came in, Robert McCausland, 2011 Letts Road. I came in and had a discussion with Mr. Sloan. Mr. Sloan was the one who recommended this. I did not recommend this. That's the truth. Mr. Sloan? Did you not say you would support C4 zoning on the corner for the charging?
So for the record, as I previously,
Yes or no question?
no, let him answer, please, Mr. McCausland, because we've gone
That's
around.
all I have.
Thank you. So we recommend moving forward, and that there's a motion on the table for the applicant to pursue the C3 zoning with the PDD, and we can get this to work. It's a good idea. Let's just get this to work through the process. So there's a motion on the table. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Item G4, I'm sorry. Consider preliminary plan development for Harvest Arbor.
Madam Supervisor, I move that the board adopt the following resolution approval of the preliminary plan development district for Harvest Arbor. Whereas project sponsor has requested preliminary approval of a plan development district for Harvest Arbor located at the southeast corner of Ford Road and Napier Road, and whereas Planning Commission reviewed the preliminary plan development plan, the plan development agreement, and voted 7-0 to recommend approval of the request with conditions as the request meets the criteria for a plan development and results in definite benefits to the community. Now therefore be it resolved, the Board of Trustees of the Charter Township of Canton, Michigan does hereby approve the Harvest Arbor preliminary plan development district and planning application 070PDP 7975 on the subject tax parcel as provided in the Plan Development Agreement and planned documents, subject to any required modifications to the landscape plan and PDD amendment prior to final PDD review.
Support.
Support.
Motion made by Clerk Seeger, supported by Trustee Bradinsky. Project sponsor proposes to develop 51 single-family homes on the 25.5-acre parcel located at the southeast corner of Ford and Napier. There's one public entrance proposed on Ford Road and one emergency vehicle access proposed on Napier. The property includes a creek in the southwest corner that is a tributary to the Lower Rouge River. The site is vacant and has been used for agriculture for many years. Last year, the parcel was rezoned from RA, rural agricultural, to R2, single-family residential. The applicant proposes to develop the site as a planned development district, PDD, which allows for modifications from certain development standards of the zoning ordinance and requires the project to result in definite benefits to the site and to the community. The project sponsor proposes the following definite benefits: preservation of heavily wooded areas along the creek and Napier Road, preservation of the wetland areas, internal sidewalks on the open space, including connections to Ford Road and Napier Road. 40% of the site is open to space, or 10.71 acres, which exceeds the 25% minimum open space required in a planned development. A welcome sign at the northwest corner of the site with enhanced landscaping to define this gateway entrance into Canton. More trees are planted than are required by the zoning ordinance. At its meeting on January 8th, 2024, the Planning Commission recommended approval of the PDD, subject to conditions. Director Norwood, do you want to add anything?
Thank you, Madam Supervisor. I do not have anything to add, but Committee Planner Patrick Sloan is here to answer any questions.
Summer, would you like to add anything from the Planning Commission?
Nothing to add, thank you.
You want to add anything?
Good evening. My name is Mike Knowles, N-O-L-E-S. I'm with the UMLOR Group representing MI Homes of Michigan tonight. I just want to say that we're very excited to be at our 6th public meeting for this planned development. Has been said, planned development is a wonderful tool to be able to work with the community to give additional benefits to the community in exchange for some deviations from the strict limits of the ordinance. In this particular case, the open space is significant, over 10 acres of open space on a 25.5-acre parcel. We've stayed away from the bulk of the wetlands and the woodlands, particularly the woodlands and natural features in the southwest corner of the parcel. Going through the process, as you know, going through 6 public meetings, and we have at least 2 more before the process is completed. We've modified the plan along the way through input from the Planning Commission, from the planners, from the engineers, from the Township Board, from the outside consultants. It's made it a better plan. It's the plan that you have before you today, which is why we're fortunate to have a unanimous recommendation from the Planning Commission, as well as all recommendations for approval from all the outside consultants and the departments here in Canton Township. So again, many of you know me. I've been in this room many times for the last 20 years. And we're happy to bring another plan in front of you, and we hope to have your continued support for this. I'm available to answer any questions that you have. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the board? Oh, Stephen, I saw you. Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Welcome. I was going to ask Planner Sloan, can you just discuss a little bit about the traffic study and what we're going to do with slow down lanes and things like that?
Sure. So the applicant has submitted a traffic study with the project that was done by Fishbeck, and the traffic study was submitted, or it's dated for June 1st. And the traffic study, it does show some underperforming conditions on Napier Road, both north and south of Ford Road, at the peak hours. Fortunately, those traffic levels on Napier are relatively low, and the applicant is not proposing a public access onto Napier for any of the traffic from the development. What they're proposing is an emergency vehicle only access through Napier so that there are two bona fide points of access, but the public access would be onto Ford Road. Regarding the bypass, there's a bypass lane going westbound. So if traffic is going westbound on Ford, the traffic that's in the westbound lane that's turning left into the site, there'll be a bypass lane to the right of them or north of them, so traffic could go around. I think at the Planning Commission, we had some discussions of whether that would be a bypass lane or a dedicated left turn lane. So ultimately, that will be a decision that'll be made by MDOT since Ford Road is under MDOT's jurisdiction, including this stretch of Ford Road here. So, but ultimately, the traffic study did recommend some sort of a bypass so that whether it's a bypass or a dedicated left turn so that it wouldn't hold up traffic going westbound when a turn was being made.
Okay, thank you. My other question was about the design of the homes. And when I look at them, they have, I think, front entry garages. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes,
Is
sir.
that something that was discussed in planning? Mr. Sloan, sorry.
Yeah, we did discuss some of them, and I think some of the reasons for the front entry versus the side entry. First is sometimes it's just architectural style and preference. The other reason for doing it is typically a side entry garage requires a wider lot width because you've got the garage, not just the width of the garage, but the width of the 90-degree turn from a vehicle. So sometimes those side entries require a little bit more width. And if it's not width, it's depth to restructure the home so that they can get the width. So sometimes that can impact the architecture just depending on what they're proposing for the home models.
Okay, because I think most of the homes in that area are side entry garages, so this will be a change. I know down Napier, the subdivision at Napier and Cherry Hill, just east of Cherry Hill, I can't remember the name of it, that has front entrance garages. I don't know if that's part of like the Cherry Hill Village PDD and that's why that was allowed down there. But it's not any kind of variance that we had to do to allow for that. It's okay under the current zoning.
Correct. The zoning allows for either side entry or front entry.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Item G5, consider purchase orders for PPM service and arbor care for tree removal and pruning services.
Madam Supervisor, I move to approve the issuance of purchase orders to PPM Tree Service and Arbor Care for an amount not to exceed $100,000.
Support.
Motion made by Clerk Seeger, supported by Trustee Brunzinski. At its meeting on August 23rd, 2022, the Township Board of Trustees approved the 22 through 24 tree removal and pruning services bid from PPM Tree Service and Arbor Care and the issuance of purchase orders for 2022. For 2024, there's $100,000 budgeted by the Municipal Services Department for tree removal and pruning, and purchase orders are recommended for these amounts in 2024. Tree pruning and removal will primarily take place along major roads and on township property. Removal services include the tree removal, stump grinding, and site restoration with topsoil, backfill, grass seed, and straw. PPM has done excellent work in Canton Township, including removing old pear trees that were nearing the end of their life and providing timely removal services after the historic storms in August 2023. Director Norwood, do you want to add anything?
Thank you, Madam Supervisor. As you know, you heard a lot this evening from the community planner, Patrick Sloan, about land use decisions and zoning and the Planning Commission. But this area is also comes under his purview, and it's the work that's been going on in this area, the township is very outstanding, and through his staff and his leadership. So I'm pretty happy to bring this forward. He also works very closely with Public Works on with the tree removals, and certainly this has been we look to do more in this area in the future, but this is some good work that's happening on a community from the planning department.
Any questions or comments from the board? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Item G7, consider preliminary?
G6.
Oh, G6, I'm sorry. Consider approval of 5-year residential solid waste collection, recycling, and disposal services contract with Priority Waste.
Madam Supervisor, I move to approve a 5-year contract for solid waste collection services with Priority Waste and authorize Township Supervisor to sign the contract on behalf of Canton Township.
Support?
Motion made by Clerk Seeger, supported by Trustee Snyderman. Canton Township's current solid waste contract with GFL is set to expire on July 31st, 2024. Staff is recommending approval of a new 5-year contract agreement with Priority Waste for solid waste, recycling, compost, and disposal contract in the amount of $26,168,266.80, which also includes the cost of 96-gallon trash carts. If approved, the new services would commence the first week of August 2024 and continue through July 31st, 2029. Director Norwood, do you want to add anything?
Thank you, Madam Supervisor. As many of you know, we've had significant challenges with GFL over the past 2 years. And it was under the guidance and advice of the Supervisor's Office, we went out for bid for a new provider. And so today is we landed on this on Priority. And you may hear from them tonight if you'd like to hear from them. But we're pretty pleased with what they're offering to the township. And I would like to answer some of the Youth Affairs Commission questions about, because it kind of leads to some of my comments I want to add, that there'll be a very robust communication strategy for residents because the carts are going to be new. So we're going to have to talk about where to store the carts, how to deal with the carts. So we'll be tapping into the cable team to put some videos together how to deal with that. We do not plan any changes in garbage day pickup, so that'll remain the same. And I know that there were some other comments from Mr. McCausland about why a 5-year contract. Well, the largest part of our 5-year contract is quite a capital-heavy investment by a hauler, so they need to capitalize on the costs and the return on their investment too. So that's why in support we go 5-year. However, we are going to be protecting the township from some challenges that we had with GFL through the contractual arrangements. And I've been working with the township attorney, with Mr. Haver, on these issues. So we'll be putting some things in the contract that we did not have in the past to certainly protect the residents of Canton. I don't know if I answered all his questions, but I know that he had some.
There was some, I think, also. It's not going to replace our bulk bush.
Yeah, those things will continue.
Yep.
That services will continue on. We are working on having a day at a site. Information will be shared about those things. So you won't see a reduction in service, actually improvement in service with this new hauler.
Any
Also,
questions?
I should mention, John Selmy, Public Works Manager, is also here to answer any questions too you might have. So,
Thank you. Any questions from the board on the contract? Stephen?
Actually, one that Mr. McCausland asked that I was interested in is would there be opportunity to have more than one cart?
sure, yeah, you can have more than one cart, but you'll have to
Pay for the
have to
second
procure
one?
it. Yeah,
Yeah, okay,
that we anticipate that will happen. So.
yeah, okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Do you know what the cost of a second cart would be? I think we saw that.
Yeah, it's in the $125.
Okay, and the carts, for the trash, not recycling, but they're significantly larger than the current carts that we have for recycling, is that?
Yeah, the recycling 64 gallons, and these will be 96 gallon.
Okay.
They are bigger, but surprisingly they're not significantly bigger.
Well, the
but they are big.
capacity is bigger, so,
I'm sorry?
the capacity is.
Yeah, the capacity is, yes.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Michael?
I would just like to say I have been unhappy with the consistency in the trash service that we've received in the township for quite some time, and I am looking forward to new days with a new vendor, and I will gladly vote in favor of this contract. I'm not interested in paying more for worse service, so I will strongly support this resolution today.
Okay.
Summer, go first, because I already
Sorry,
spoke.
going this way and back.
I was just going to say, I agree with Clerk Segrist. I will also mention that making the shift is a huge lift, and going out for the proposals, which was a huge thing. And so I appreciate all of the information that you got to the board, so we can make a good decision here. And I know that shifting waste collection agencies by August is going to be a huge thing, and so good luck. But I am happy to support this, and I think given what I've heard about this provider from other communities that use them, they do provide good work, so I'm happy to vote in support.
Back this way, Kate?
Yeah, I did want to say that I agree with both Clerk Segrist and Trustee Foster. Very much looking forward to better service. And you know that I have been one to, whenever I have seen an issue, I've sent it to you, and I've seen multiple. So I am glad that we have this before us tonight. I do want to tell the community, though, that this is going to be a transition. So we may not see that great service right away, but I am sure we will get the kinks worked out and get it to where it should be.
Yeah, I'll just add that I'm excited for this. I know it's been a struggle for a number of years now, and I'm looking forward to it being beneficial to our community. So hopefully you guys will be there to answer the phone when issues come up. I also want the community to have patience, because I know when we made the transition to the barrels for recycling, there was some concern about that, and I know there's probably going to be concern, but this is just the way it is now. You know, there's no real option anymore for having a solution where people buy and put out their own barrels. So the carts are, you know, some people will struggle to find space for them. We heard that last time 5 years ago. Hopefully they found solutions. I know lots of communities are doing this. I have relatives where it's all carts, and it's working well. So I'm looking forward. I'm happy to have 2 carts. So I was wondering, can they say anything? Can we ask them to come up in priority?
Sure.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening. My name is Dan Vinay. I'm the Vice President of Municipal Sales. I'll let my colleagues introduce themselves briefly.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Andrea Cruz. I'm the Chief Sales Officer for Priority.
Good evening. Paul Ruthenberg. I'm General Manager of Municipal Relations.
Thank you all very much for the kind words of encouragement as we submitted our bid in hopes to get awarded the contract. It was a long process, and I give applause to those who ran it, because it was clean, it was smooth, there was a lot of collaboration in the interview process. Not often is it heard where there's a two-way conversation after the bids are open. Sometimes it's open and interpreted, and sometimes you don't get to clarify some things. A common thing that we hear in our industry, number one, consistency of service, right? You hear it from your constituents, and we hear it from our customers that they just want us to show up on time every week. On time, I say, is a day, not a time, because we may alter routes a little bit. But we have never had an issue where we had to suspend any kind of service, push a service to a Saturday to compensate for mechanical or employee issues. At times, there may be a delay because of operations in the field that we encounter, like just a couple weeks ago, those really bad cold days, but it's a collaboration with the Department of Public Works and our colleagues to find a solution for the problem, as opposed to just say, too bad, so sad, right? The other thing that we hear commonly is you can't get in touch with your hauler and you can't get feedback or get a call back or even a person on the phone when you make that first call for 30, 40, 50 minutes. I personally live in a city that we don't service, and I know I've dealt with that. We have an average hold time of 25 seconds and an average call time of less than 3 minutes. So what we do is incorporate technology into our service platform. So not only is it just a guy in a truck or a girl picking up your 3 different waste streams, you have a full network behind the scenes that's watching them operate as they're operating through our camera systems, our routing software, so that way if there is an issue, it's not just the person in the truck on an island anymore. They now have that back-end support to problem solve for them, find ways to correct the issue, get them the support that they need, but ultimately hear the resident when a situation occurs. Because I was a kid once, and my parents asked me to take the trash out on Monday before I went to school, and I have made that mistake where I didn't take it out and went to school on the bus. So those occasions happen. We also know that we will make a mistake where we miss a container because a car was parked in front of it or the USPS was in front of it, and those things happen. The great thing about the technology and the camera systems that we have is that we can check that for either training purposes of our employees or maybe for rerouting of that, because I know my USPS mailman comes every day around 5:15, and if that runs into the trash, we can then retroactive our service to maybe alter those routes. That's why I say you have a collection day and not a collection time. But I'll leave it up to Andrea to add any more context. But again, thank you all very much for the vote of confidence so far and the words that you've said. And I wanted to answer a couple of the items that you had brought up in your discussion.
I can't tell you how excited I am to show you what good service is. I wrote down some notes from the feedback that you guys just provided, and I think the number one thing is collaboration and communication. At Priority Waste, I grew up in the garbage business. I was a little girl and my father owned a company, so I grew up learning how to provide good customer service to residents, and I don't take it lightly. You know, when you call, to have somebody actually physically answer the phone, a live voice, and get you to the person that has the answer is huge. We built that model based on the feedback that we've gotten from our other 41 municipalities that we service, and that was a common factor that was, you know, an era of frustration. So I just wanted to thank you and the residents. I'm super excited about this. This means a lot to me, and with communication and collaboration, you know, there will be a transition period, but we're ready for that. We're prepared, and we will work with you. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Tanya?
Dave, would there be some sort of a service level agreement, like, you know, like if it's a long contract, so like how are we, are we going to have some sort of a, you know, meeting of standards or?
Yes. My quick answer is yes. Certainly, Mr. Hauber and I have had long discussions about what happened with the prior contract and some things that were missing in that contract that we're to make sure that have to do with service levels and pride, and they will be in the contract.
Yeah, I am very excited. I've heard all the 3 vendors that came to our study session, and I was pretty impressed by what you had to offer. And yeah, there will be a transition, and thankfully the transition is not happening during a big holiday. So I think it'll be much smoother, and I am very excited to vote on this because I have had people call my home phone when their trash was not picked up a few years ago. So thank you.
What else? All right, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item G7, consider preliminary plan development for Top Canton LLC.
Madam Supervisor, I move that the board adopt the following resolution: approval of the planned development, the preliminary plan development district for Top Canton. Whereas project sponsor has requested preliminary approval of a plan development district for Top Canton, which consists of 6 parcels located between Ford Road and Warren Road and between I-275 and Lots Road. And whereas the Planning Commission reviewed the preliminary plan development plan and plan development agreement and voted 8-0 to recommend approval of the request with conditions as the request meets the criteria for a plan development and results in definite benefits to the community. Now therefore be it resolved, the Board of Trustees of the Charter Township of Canton, Michigan does hereby approve the Top Canton Preliminary Plan Development District in the subject planning application number on the 6 subject tax parcels as presented, as provided in the plan development agreement and plan documents, subject to the following conditions. 1, traffic improvements, including traffic signal and signal optimizations, must comply with the recommendations of the traffic impact study and Wade Trim, as well as the requirements of MDOT. 2, each fast food drive-through restaurant must have 1 loading space that complies with section 4.02 of the zoning ordinance. 3, a final decision on the installation of sidewalk along the Warren Road frontage will be deferred to final PDD review. 4, a final decision on the proposed modifications to the sign standards of Article 6A of the zoning ordinance will be deferred to final plan development district review, and the PDD agreement must explicitly state that the signs are on-premise signs that can only advertise on-site uses within the PDD. And then 5, a final decision on the proposed modification to the lighting standards of section 2.13 of the zoning ordinance will be deferred to final PDD review. Oh, what did I read wrong? Oh, you made a modification? I'll make, I will retract the final verbiage on subject number, on provision number 1, and I will change it to including investigation of a northern entry from Warren Road with the conclusions approved by the township. Well, I would just add that to item number 1 as indicated on the addition that was brought to the meeting.
Support.
Motion made by Clerk Seeger, supported by Trustee Snyderman. The applicant proposes a Planned Development District PDD application for a multi-use project on a 55-acre site located between Ford and Warren Road and between I-275 and Lots Road. The PDD application consists of 6 parcels and proposes the following uses and development. 1, 2 fast food drive-through restaurants, Chick-fil-A and Portillo's, along the Ford Road frontage. 2, a 4-story hotel located in the middle of the site. 3, an indoor-outdoor golf driving range and recreation facility located on the north side of the site near Warren Road and I-275. The facility will also include restaurants, bars, lounges, and event areas, and retaining the multi-tenant shopping center to the east, which contains a tile shop. At its meeting on January 8, 2024, the Planning Commission recommended approval of the PDD subject to conditions. Director Norwood, do you want to add anything?
I have nothing else to add.
Okay, thanks. Summer, do you have anything to add?
I will quickly just add that the Planning Commission did approve the PDD, but we're concerned about traffic and really wanted the investigation of the northern entry from Warren Road, as Clerk Segrist added in the motion. But yeah, it was approved, and yeah, concern about traffic is always on Ford Road.
Questions or comments? No? I think we've seen this one. Okay. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Item G8, consider approval of Pheasant Run Golf Course restroom remodel.
Madam Supervisor, I move to approve the above-listed budget amendment to award a contract and issue a purchase order to Compass Construction Solutions at 130 Morose, Mount Clemens, Michigan, 48043, in the amount of $55,459.50, which includes a 10% contingency of $5,041.
Support?
Support.
Motion made by Clerk Seeger, supported by Trustee Bordenski. In 2019, the Board of Trustees adopted a capital improvement plan, and subsequently, the township issued capital improvement bonds to fund the CIP. The CIP includes renovating the men's and women's restroom in the clubhouse at Pheasant Run Golf Course. The renovations will include tile work, partition replacement, refurbishing of the wood doors, new sinks and faucets, new countertops, painting, and upgraded LED lights. Director Norwood, do we have anything to add? Or
Thank you,
Director?
Madam Supervisor. Just a couple things on this. I had a conversation earlier today with Trustee Berninski about this and about how the process, when we engage these contractors on these things, once we have a successful bidder, we do spend time with them to talk about how they're going to do the project and working on the reducing costs if we can to get a better project for the township. The other thing I want to point out, our former facilities manager, John Zelanis, is here. He is now the deputy director at MSD, so he's also happy to answer questions, but I'm pleased to, I was going to mention him later on in the meeting, but he's our new deputy director, and he's happy to answer your questions.
Thank you. Director Holmberger, do you want to add anything? It's at the golf course?
No, just that this has been a long time coming. We're very excited to see these improvements. There's certainly some dated pieces in our restrooms there, so we're looking forward to upgrading those to meet the standards of the course for the high volume of use that is going on out there.
Great. Any comments or questions from the board? Stephen?
I had to ask. I looked at the list of things that are being done, and it doesn't list toilets. So are we keeping those?
He's going up.
And welcome, Mr. Deputy Director.
Thank you. Yeah, I can explain a little bit further on that. So faucets and sinks will be replaced. They had a lot of wear and tear, and those ones needed it. The toilets will be removed and salvaged if possible. Wax rings will be replaced and they'll be remounted by the contractor. If unforeseen condition happens or if they're not applicable when we put them back in, they just look like an eyesore, our team internally can purchase and replace those at a much more effective cost and a quick turnaround as well. So we took that burden on us if it had to be done. We try to salvage as much as we can because I know we're already a little over budget, but something of that nature we're very easily take care of in-house.
Okay. Thanks.
Welcome.
All those in favor of the motion? Oh, Kate?
Yeah, I just wanted to say congratulations.
Thank you very much.
But also wanted to thank Director Norwood for our conversation earlier today. I had noticed that the amount we're being asked to award was different than the amount in the bid. And so I understand there was some negotiation that took place, and I think that's fabulous, so thank you for that.
Yeah, welcome. We try to typically do that as much as possible. Usually with the top three bidders, we do find a lot of alternate options to bring down pricing and still have what we're looking for and the vision we're looking for without sacrificing that. So it was very good conversations, and I think we'll be very pleased with the outcome.
Thank you.
Else? And there's not going to be any more boxes in the women's room, right? Greg? We're moving all those out.
Just one. But no,
No more boxes.
those will not be in there.
All right, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes. G9, consider creating and filling a technical support coordinator position.
Madam Supervisor, I move to approve a temporary headcount increase with the creation and filling of a technical support coordinator position in the ITI department for a period not to exceed 5 years, with the maximum budget impact being $150,000 per year. I further move to approve the budget adjustment outlined in the budget implications section above.
Support.
Motion made by Clerk Seeger, supported by Trustee Snyderman. The ITI department is requesting to create and fill a new temporary position of technical support coordinator. This new job description and factor analysis of pay grade 7 was approved at the Merit Commission meeting on February 5th, 2024. In addition, amendments to the 2024 ITI budget are included with this request. Director Ebegbu, do you want to add anything?
Nothing much to add to this, except that time is of essence for us with regards to succession planning that is part of this package. But I'll take any question.
Other comment?
I would just ask, I notice it's for 3 to 5 years, and then what happens after that?
So the projection is that the individual in question that we're planning for has kind of hinted us that, they'll be retiring soon. So we want to make sure that there's an ample opportunity for us to do knowledge transfer because there's quite a lot of things at stake in terms of the infrastructure, the support of the entire system. So we want to make sure that we utilize our time very well. We haven't been given the liberty to say whether it's next month or what, but we don't want to be caught off guard.
Okay, thank you.
All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Item G10, consider approving a resolution to accept the Michigan Public Safety Communication Systems amended and restated integration agreement.
Madam Supervisor, I move to approve the Michigan Public Safety Communication System amended and restated integration agreement and approve a resolution accepting the agreement with Canton Supervisor Anne Marie Graham-Hudek, yourself as signature representative for the township.
Support.
Motion made by Clerk Seeger,
We
supported by
weren't sure if you were done.
supported by Trustee Brunitsky. State of Michigan is requesting Canton Township to approve an amended and restated integration agreement with the Michigan Public Safety Communication Systems, which allows Canton to participate in their statewide 800 megahertz radio system. Director Stockline, do you want to add anything with the use for these?
Nothing to add, but I'm happy to answer questions.
Questions or comments? Kate?
This is just a requirement from the state, right?
This is what the police and fire use for our radio systems. We work with the state, so it's been 10 years. They just want us to renew the contract. The good news is there's no increase in prices, so we're able to manage that in 10 years.
Yeah, well. They should manage everything, all prices.
Wasn't this also an issue at the Plymouth Canton schools that they needed, when you go into sometimes deep into the schools, you don't get the signals anymore?
State that one more time.
So the signals, when you're going to the schools, these radios are required for when you go into deep buildings like that.
But we still have issues in the school
You do.
up there that we have to work with, the school district to do, but the state, this is just the contract for us to have our dispatch councils and to be able to use our portable radios and our mobile radios. This is what that contract is, but we're still working with the school district to
Still
ensure
working
that we
with
have
the
that.
district, okay.
Yeah.
Good. All right, thank you. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Item G11, consider approval to award the architectural design for Summit PDC room renovation.
Madam Supervisor, I move to approve the award and purchase order of architectural services to AC3 Collaborative Architecture for the Summit PDC renovations for a total of $29,100.
Or
Motion made by Clerk Seeger, supported by Trustee Snyderman. Canton Leisure Services and partner with Municipal Services are working toward implementing the renovation of the Professional Development Center, room located in the banquet area of the Summit on the Park. This room will become a multi-use space primarily for therapeutic recreation program, but will be flexible enough for a variety of other programming. Canton Leisure Services is recommending the architectural services for the Summit PDC room to A3C Collaborative Architecture, Canton's contracted architectural service provider, for a total amount of $29,100. Director Holmberger, do you want to add anything?
Certainly, this is just step one in the process of repurposing a room that kind of has outlived its usefulness in terms of what it is. It's the sloped floor classroom type room that so this will give us a multi-purpose space, but this is strictly for the architecture and engineering to be able to provide bid documents for the actual construction, so then that would come back before the board prior to an award of that contract for the actual construction, with the hopes of that being completed midsummer.
Questions or comments from the board? This is for our therapeutic rec program. Great. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes. G12, consider approval to purchase 2 mowers and a field groomer for Canton Parks.
Madam Supervisor, I move to award the purchase of 2 lawn mowers from Weingarts for a total cost of $41,132, and another purchase order for 1 field groomer from Revels Turf and Tractor LLC for a total cost of $47,025.94.
Support.
Motion made by Clerk Seeger, supported by Trustee Bordinsky. As part of the capital improvement plan budget, the Canton Leisure Services Parks Division is slated to purchase 2 mowers and 1 field groomer in 2024. Park staff solicited quotes from Weingarts, a source provider, for the 2 Laser X Series mowers. Additionally, quotes were solicited from Revels Turf and Tractor LLC for the field groomer, as they are the sole source provider for Smithco Turf Care machinery. Therefore, Canton Leisure Services is recommending to purchase 2 Laser X Series lawnmowers from Weingarts for a total of $41,132, and to purchase 1 field groomer from Revels Turf and Tractor LLC for a total cost of $47,025.94. Director Holmberger, you want to add anything to this?
Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions or comments? All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes. G13, consider approval to purchase 1 Parks utility vehicle.
Madam Supervisor, I move to approve the purchase of 1 Parks utility vehicle from Deere and Company for a total amount of $38,923.17.
Support?
All right, I'll support.
Motion made by Clerk Seeger, supported by Trustee Snyderman. The Canton Leisure Services Parks Division maintains numerous township grounds, parks, and facilities. To keep these properties well-maintained, we are recommending the purchase of 1 utility vehicle that can be used year-round for heavy-duty landscaping, snow removal, and more. This is an MIDEAL street-legal vehicle that can drive to all the different parks and facilities. Therefore, Canton Leisure Services is recommending the purchase of 1 utility vehicle from Deere and Company for a total cost of $38,923.17, which is budgeted. Director Holmberger, do you want to add anything?
Just like to address the question that was asked by the Youth Advisory Council. They had asked, just to recall, they had asked how might the purchase of the utility vehicle contribute to improving the experience and safety of youth engaging in recreational activities. As stated in the motion or in the summary, is primarily a maintenance vehicle that will be used for landscaping, beautification of parks around the township, so that will certainly help with your overall experience there. And then as far as safety, it is a significant snow removal piece to clear sidewalks and walkways for residents, as well as spreading salt to keep everyone safe there. So other than that, happy to answer any other questions.
Any questions or comments? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Item G14, consider appointments to the Commission for Culture, Arts, and Heritage.
Madam Supervisor, I move that the Board of Trustees of the Charter Township of Canton approve the appointments of James Bryan and Brian Maybe to the Commission for Culture, Arts, and Heritage for a 3-year term to expire December 31, 2026.
Support.
Motion made by Clerk Seeger, supported by Trustee Bordinsky. Due to multiple vacancies on the Commission for Culture, Arts, and Heritage, applications were solicited, reviewed, and interviews were held by a panel consisting of township elected officials and the recreation supervisor. Upon completion of this process, the interview panel is recommending the appointments of James Bryan and Brian Maybe to the Commission for Culture, Arts, and Heritage. Director Lefevre, do you want to add anything to this?
Yeah, this commission has gotten some new energy pumped into it, and it's invigorated. I know Trustee Ganguly is on the commission with us. So these 2 new members are jumping on board at a great time. This commission's working really hard to have a presence at community events and promote awareness of what the Cultural Commission does and how they've advanced the mission here. This is one of the Youth Council questions, asking how the commission plans to engage and involve youth in cultural activities with the new additions. We do have a youth member on our commission. This commission's had a youth member for, I believe, since its inception, so we'll continue to work through that angle. This commission does a lot of promoting other events in the community, so the youth representative that we have is great about sharing things that are happening at the park and throughout the community within different cultural events and activities. We'll certainly continue that and welcome any input or anybody else's involvement. There's still a posting open for 2 more additional spots on this commission.
Thank you. Any youth positions, or can you take it?
They're open to
always
anyone,
open.
yep.
Okay, thank you.
I think the youth position is open, right? Or we have somebody from the high schools.
We currently have one,
Okay.
but we would welcome any additions. We'd welcome more. Obviously, we can. It's great to have a different perspective. I think we have 1 general seat and 1 school seat, school representative seat still open.
Want to add anything, Tanya?
No, I'm pretty happy that we finally have somebody from the Historical Society. I think Mr. Maybe.
Yes. Yep.
So, yeah, he's going to represent us from the Historical Society. We had a vacancy for a while now, and so it would be a good addition.
Agreed.
All right, Kate?
Yeah, Trustee Ganguly and I were part of the interview panel, and really impressed with both James and Brian, and looking forward to them joining the commission and to their ideas. So.
All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Congratulations. They aren't online, otherwise I'd have them speak. Item G15, consider approval of a purchase order to Carrie and Paul Group for entertainment and sound at the Thursday Night Live concert series.
Madam Supervisor, I move to approve a purchase order in amount not to exceed $16,000 to Carrie and Paul Group to provide the entertainment and sound for the 2024 Thursday Night Live concert series.
Support.
Motion made by Clerk Seeger, supported by Trustee Brunzinski. Canton Leisure Services are requesting approval of a purchase order in the amount of $16,000 to Carrie and Paul Group to provide entertainment and professional sound services for the 2024 Thursday Night Live concert series. Canton Leisure Services utilizes the services of Carrie and Paul Group for the booking of entertainment for a variety of community events. In 2023, Leisure Services expanded the role of Carrie and Paul Group to include professional sound services to this long-standing summer concert tradition with significant success. To help build upon the quality and consistency that's provided, staff are requesting the bidding process be waived and to approve a purchase order to Carrie and Paul Group with the total not-to-exceed fee of $16,000. Do you want to add anything, Director LaFever?
Nothing to add. Obviously, a very long-standing tradition in the Canton community, and the fact that we're talking about it just means that summer is right around the corner.
All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Item G17. Consider approval of application for the Ralph C. Wilson Trailhead Grant Maintenance Application.
Madam Supervisor, I move to authorize the submission of the application to the Ralph C. Wilson Jr. Trail Maintenance Fund grant for the trail maintenance and to accept the funds if approved. Canton has committed to matching up to $400,000 for a total of $800,000. And I move to approve the attached resolution.
Support.
Motion made by Clerk Seeger, supported by Trustee Brunzinski. Canton Leisure Services is seeking approval to apply for a Ralph C. Wilson Jr. Trail Maintenance Fund grant administered by the Community Foundation of Southeast Michigan. The application for the grant will assist Canton Township with additional funds ranging from $50,000 up to $400,000 to help ensure that developed trails and greenways provide the service that connects people and communities throughout the Metro Detroit region. As a part of this grant project, Canton intends on building a restroom facility, picnic shelter, accessible parking, bike repair station, and bike wash station. These amenities would provide trail users access to much-needed amenities. As a requirement of the fund, the project must be connected to one of the 7 regional trails, including the I-275 Metro Trail. It is intended to apply for a $400,000 grant with Canton to provide up to $400,000 match for a total project budget of $800,000. Director LaFever, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, this project, the timing of this project is to help us take advantage of a development that's happening with the trailhead, while helping to enhance one of Canton's greatest assets. This was one of the youth council questions as well. If the grant is rewarded, what would the outcome be if there is money remaining from the grant? Would it be invested in the trail or something else? Rarely does a project come in under budget, so I'm guessing every dollar will be spent on this, this project. But yeah, we would try to maximize every cent we could from the grant to help bring the trailhead, to a reality. Excuse me. Happy to take any questions.
Questions or comments?
Yeah. Is it a rolling decision, or is there a date when they have decisions?
There is a date. We should know that, Ralph C. Wilson, I believe we'll know by June on this one.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Good luck. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Item G18, consider reappointment to the Canton Tax Board of Review.
Madam Supervisor, I move that the Canton Board of Trustees approve the reappointment of Lewis Smith to the Canton Tax Board of Review for a 2-year term to expire 3/1/26.
Support.
Motion made by Clerk Seeger, supported by Trustee Snyderman. Lewis Smith, a current member of Canton's Tax Board of Review, has a term expiring on March 1st, 2024, and is seeking reappointment. Canton's Assessing Department works directly with the Board of Review and has reported that Lewis has provided excellent service, has good attendance, and has completed the training required of all Board Review members. So this board is, we're meeting again in March. So that's coming up quickly. We wanted to make sure we got him reappointed. We got him appointed so we could get to the tax board reviews being held very quickly. Any questions from the board? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Item G19, consider the approval of the proposal from Management Advisory Group International Incorporated for the Merit Employees Job Classification and Salary Studies.
Madam Supervisor, I move to approve the proposal from Management Advisory Group Incorporated to complete the job classification and salary study for merit employees, and to approve the above-mentioned budget amendment.
Support.
Motion made by Clerk Seeger, supported by Trustee Snyderman. The Merit Employee Group has not undergone a comprehensive classification and compensation study since 2002. Therefore, a request is being made to engage Management Advisory Group International to conduct a comprehensive review and market analysis for Canton Township's non-union workforce. Additionally, MAG will be contracted to provide ongoing individual reviews of new job classifications on an as-needed basis and reclassifications on an annual basis. Canton Township wants to ensure that the job classifications and respective salaries are internally equitable and competitive in the marketplace. The objective of the study is to ensure Canton remains in a position to provide competitive salaries to retain current talent and attract qualified external applicants. The cost of the study should not exceed $48,000. Deputy Supervisor, do you want to add anything as you were part of the committee that worked on this?
No, I don't have anything to add. I'll just say that the internal committee did include Trustee Ganguly, as well as Mayor Commissioner Craig Picard, and Human Resources Manager Rochelle Howell, as well as internal staff. And the recommended vendor, Management Advisory Group International Incorporated, was the unanimous choice of the group from the vendors that we interviewed. We interviewed 3 of them after receiving 5 bids. Happy to answer any questions.
Comments or questions?
I just want to comment that our Human Resource Manager, Rochelle, she did a phenomenal job of, getting the bids, and we had initial discussions, then we shortlisted 3 companies, and we did some interviews virtually, and we thought the Management Advisory Group was agreed upon to be the best group, and they had a realistic timeline too, so we are hoping to engage them in the next few, in the coming months, and have some answers by summer.
Kate?
Yeah, I think this should have been done a long time ago. I mentioned to my husband this evening that this was on the agenda tonight, and he said, "Oh, we do that every year at my company." Now he works in a corporate office, but still, 21 years or what is it, 23 years? 22? Over 20 years since this has been done here, so it was really needed. So thank you for bringing it.
All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Item G20, consider combining the continuing part-time positions from the Supervisor's Office and the Human Resources Division into one full-time Clerk 3 position.
Madam Supervisor, I move to approve the combining of the continuing part-time positions from both the Supervisor's Office and the Human Resources Division to one full-time Clerk 3 position and to approve the included budget adjustment.
Support.
Motion made by Clerk Seeger, supported by Trustee Snyderman, that clerical continuing part-time positions within the township have historically been a feeder position for full-time positions for clerical staff that desire full-time work. Supervisor's Office and the Human Resources Division have both experienced this phenomenon recently. However, there's a need for continuity of staff with the level of support each department requires of the person serving in this role. Therefore, consideration is being requested to combine the two budgeted continuing part-time positions into one full-time position, with the anticipation that the departments will be able to secure a level of consistent staffing for the work required. So are there any questions on this? I think we spoke about this at the last meeting.
Oh, did we? Oh, I was just gonna ask like how it would work. Like they'll just spend part of their day in one office and part in the other?
Yes.
Okay.
Go downstairs, yeah. Deputy Supervisor, do you have anything to add?
No, I believe the summary kind of captures the idea here pretty well. And as you just said, Supervisor, the idea of this is to have one full-time clerical employee to create more consistency and stability in the position, as opposed to having two part-time positions that tend to turn over at a pretty high rate. And so all of the training and the time that kind of goes into, preparing a person in a part-time position to do the job is typically lost within 6 months to a year when that person leaves the part-time job. So the idea is to create some stability in the position, and because the two part-time positions are budgeted, it only requires a small budget amendment to do this.
All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Item G21, consider combining, I'm not going to read that one again. Consider approving Merit Commission recommendation for position reclassification.
Madam Supervisor, I move to approve the Merit Commission recommendation to reclassify the position of Deputy Clerk Assistant, Grade 8 to Grade 10, and to be retitled Deputy Clerk and Elections Manager with the attached budget adjustment.
Support.
Motion made by Clerk Seeger, supported by Trustee Snyderman. The role of the clerk's office has expanded drastically over the last several years with the passing of Proposal 18.3 for elections. More recently, the passing of Proposal 22.2 created a pivotal shift in making the local democratic process more accessible with the introduction of an additional 9 days of in-person early voting. With these significant changes, the clerk's office wanted to reevaluate the position of assistant clerk to align the duties with the current responsibilities and functions of the role. Therefore, a job analysis questionnaire was completed, and the Merit Commission voted February 5th, 2024, that the position of Assistant Clerk be retitled Deputy Clerk and Elections Manager. Clerk revised the job description, and a job analysis questionnaire was completed by Assistant Clerk Catherine Baker. Factor analysis was completed, and the position factored at 960 points, which would place the position at pay grade 10 of the non-union salary grade scale. Supervisor's Office supports the factor analysis. The position remains classified as exempt. The Merit Commission approved the proposed job description and supported the factor analysis. The Clerk's Office is requesting the Board of Trustees approve the retitle and reclassification of the Deputy Clerk Assistant, Grade 8 to Deputy Clerk and Elections Manager, Grade 10. The retitle and reclassifications were approved at the February 5th Merit Commission meeting, as was said. Clerk Seekers, do you want to add to that?
That's a pretty exhaustive executive summary. This does fit in line with the request to revisit the clerk's salary months ago. The deputy or assistant clerk job description itself was not indicative of the job that the deputy was performing for the organization for a number of years, and that was evident when we went out for the open position in 2022 and received no qualified external applicants based on where the position was graded with a jurisdiction of our size, especially in a changing environment, we had to adjust the job description to make it consistent with the job being done and the job required of an elections division and a clerk's office in the ninth largest community in the state at a time when the role of a local election official's office has changed so drastically. I was happy to make those modifications to the job description. I was glad to see the job factor analysis scored consistent with at 960, consistent with a grade 10. I was happy to see that the Merit Commission approved the reclassification and that the Secretary of State herself wrote a letter in support of a reclassification of the position consistent with the changes to the position.
Any questions? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Item G22, consider the amendment of the elections operation policy.
Madam Supervisor, I move to approve the amendment of the elections operation policy to allow merit-exempt employees to buy out their compensatory time earned during any election service.
Support.
Motion made by Clerk Seeger, supported by Trustee Snyderman. In July of 2022, the board approved the elections operation policy that created many incentives for staff to work on election day. With the passage of Proposal 2022, the need for election worker has expanded outside of election day. The township is now required to facilitate 9 additional days of in-person voting, along with the ability to pre-process absentee ballots. These new changes have created a need for an updated elections operation policy. The upcoming presidential primary election this month, actually, it is requested that we amend the policy to allow merit-exempt employees to buy out their compensatory time earned during any election service. The elections operation policy will be completed and resubmitted to the Township Board for future elections. Clerk Seegers, do you want to add anything?
There were some questions about item G22 from the Youth Advisory Council. The first question was, what led to the addition of 9 more in-person voting days? And that was the voters themselves. They exercised their rights under the Michigan Constitution of 1964 to amend said Constitution and gave every resident of the state of Michigan who's a citizen and meets the qualifications of an elector, gave them the right to vote early in all statewide elections for 9 days. So for February, for August, and for November, there will be early in-person voting. That is going to start this Saturday. We have it at 2 locations. One is the Summit on the park, and the other one is the Village Arts Factory in Cherry Hill Village. And those hours are going to be 8:30 to 4:30. So any registered voter can show up at those locations, request a ballot, and they can go through a process exactly like they would on Election Day, where they get to put their ballot into the tabulator. So super convenient, but at the same time, also a process that looks exactly like Election Day. That's what caused the 9 more days of voting. And then the question number 2 was, when will the elections operations policy be further updated after this item is approved? That's a fantastic question, and I do not have a good answer on that. Because of a resignation of our state representative, because he was elected mayor in Westland, the clerk's office is for the first time ever running 5 elections this year. We did run the special primary on January 30th. We are currently running the February 27th presidential primary, and then we have a special general in April. So my office is kind of triaging our work right now because we've got about 10 pounds of stuff in a 5-pound bag. And so we're not entirely certain when we will have make these modifications. We are meeting to talk about some of our labor contracts and how that impacts elections work and individuals outside of the clerk's office working elections. And there's some talk about what that looks like. The elections operations policy was designed around the old form of voting, which was that there was no early voting. If you wanted to vote, you voted on election day or you voted an absentee ballot, and state law did not allow us to open those ballots before the polls opened on election day. For this election, that has changed, and for all future elections, that's changed. We will begin opening absentee ballots and tabulating ballots prior to Election Day. We're going to be doing that the Saturday before the election here at Township Hall in bipartisan teams of election inspectors. They will be opening those ballots and they will be running them through the tabulators. No results will be tabulated or made public until after 8 o'clock on Election Day, but most ballots will be counted prior to Election Day. So there's no need to staff up with dozens and dozens of people to frantically try to get all the work done starting at 7 a.m., which is what caused a lot of clerks' offices to be open and to continue having to count ballots into Wednesday in 2020 and in 2022. That work had to continue on into multiple days. Those days are over, thank God, and we have a more sane system around voting. So that's what that will look like. The request before the board today is to allow individuals who work the elections, usually in the role of rover, to cash out their time. These are typically exempt employees who don't have the ability to earn overtime. They will allow them to earn it and cash it out. This is a request that we bring forward to the Merit Commission every single election. It gets approved every single election. There's just, so, you know, if we've had 9 elections and we've done it 9 times, I want to save the Merit Commission time and myself time and Human Resources time and just say, let's make this the policy. If this is what we do every time, let's do it once, and then we can spend all of the time we used to have to do this, doing other work, like running elections or hiring people.
All in favor of the motion, say aye, or
Aye.
Aye.
opposed, nay. Motion passes. Great. We did already pull ahead G23, but I know Director Begbu, you had some questions from the Youth Advisory Council, if you would like to answer them.
So the first question that they presented here was how much a difference will having only one of these vendors make? First and foremost, based on the presentation that the vendors had given or gave, it's going to be more or less like night and day, particularly in the aspect of community development. This is one area where, as you know, we had been having some little challenges as it relates to the interface facing the public. And so the ability to have a dynamic system that will present ease of use to a general public is exciting. And so either way you look at it, any of these solutions that we are considering will give us that. The second question will be, will approval of this item affect the timeline for the ERP replacement project? Now, the timeline is something that we're not so sure of at the moment. So given the fact that it's going to be a hybrid, so expect some more information coming out as it relates to the timeline, because once we start the negotiation and start talking to the 2 vendors, then we'll be able to craft a realistic timeline as it relates to implementation.
Thank you. All right, now we'll go to public comment for 3 minutes. Anybody in the room for public comment? Go ahead, Mr. McCausland. Okay.
Well, good evening again. You know, Dan McCausland, 328. To say I'm disappointed tonight, I think, would be an understatement. You know, when you folks were elected in 2020, I thought I saw the start of a new day. I commented how I was pleasure to see your transparency. But you know, tomorrow's tax day. I'm going to bring $45,000 into this community tomorrow at 8 o'clock in the morning, pay taxes, which I've done since I got here at age 19. I've stayed up late. I've worked 7 days a week in the past. I've towed cars for free. I've repaired cars for free. I've given cars at cost for free. I've been a good neighbor. I've ran to burning cars. I've helped people get out of death situations. There's a slogan that's going around here. You belong here. Well, after seeing what's going on here, to see big corporations come in across the street from me, to see big companies come in and build apartments, and see them having any restrictions, and being discriminated against, being denied utilities, being attacked in the past, not by your administration, but somewhat of your administration, by the township attorney to try to shut the business down. You belong here does not apply to Dan McCausland. Dan McCausland does not belong here in business. I've stood at this podium. Out of 100,000 people, I'll stand here and talk about the trash for my neighbors. I'll talk about the good of this community. I will stand here at study sessions. I will stand here and say I love this community. I've been here for 44 years. I've been a businessman here for 38 years. But I don't belong here anymore. And it's evident, it's clear and evident that you think the same thing. Dan McCausland does not belong here, and you made that clear and evident tonight. So here's the options, ladies and gentlemen.
1 minute, just to let
One
you
minute,
know.
thank you. We'll leave the buildings as is, we'll lease the auto facility, and it is what it is. Because anybody who's young and entrepreneurial, stay away from Canton Township, especially if you're in the automotive business. You did not belong here.
Thank you. Anyone else in the room?
Again, I'm disappointed as Dan is. You ask anybody about us, I'll tell you, they'll say a lot of things. The guy's a goofball. He's got a lot of funny stories, stuff like that. But he's not a crook. He's not a liar. Integrity means everything to us, and it has our whole life. Like Dan said, whether it's help somebody out on the side of the road, help somebody out when they're down, give them a break when they're buying a car, whatever it takes. We've done it. We've hoped this community would recognize it, but it's obvious they don't. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the room? Look online. Anyone of our attendees, you want to raise your hand? Going once, twice,
I have a
3 times? Nobody online? Okay.
So I have a written public comment from David Gordon. Upton Apartments wants to build more apartments on the corner of Cherry Hill Road and Denton Road. I asked the township to put a pause in the approval, stating that the property will have more HUD affordable housing. Not all of them, but a few units.
Thank you. All right, public comment. Anyone else in the room? Public comment closed. Okay. Anyone of the staff? Any comments? Okay, board comments. We'll start with Tanya.
We have a coffee hour at the Medina Activity Center on Thursday from 5 to 7 p.m. So if anyone wants to come over and have a conversation with the Board of Trustees, you're welcome. And wishing everyone a happy Valentine's Day tomorrow.
Summer?
The Planning Commission has been hard at work on the master plan, and there are 2 open houses regarding the master plan, one on February 22nd, the other one on February 29th. So folks should come check it out and give input.
Thank you, Michael.
The clerk's office is working away. We are extremely busy. As I said before, early voting will be starting this week. at those 2 locations, said before, at the Summit on the Park and at the Village Arts Factory. Those hours will be 8:30 to 4:30. So starting this Saturday and going all the way until the Sunday before Election Day. And we're humming along with that. Very busy. We've postponed passports in the meantime and notary service, but they will start again in March.
You still need workers.
Yeah, so anybody interested in working the polls should go online to our website. There is an interest form there. You can sign up, and there's a hire packet link along with a link to the manual. You can start the process of getting ready for election. We have scheduled all of the early voting shifts, but we are still recruiting folks for February 27th, Election Day. It's a fun day.
So Clerk Segers, if people hear information out there about voting or whatever, where would they go to find out your information? What's the true information? Not listen to any artificial intelligence or robocalls out there that might not be telling the truth.
Yeah, so well, luckily now in Michigan, it is illegal to give out information that is not factually accurate. Law went into effect today. And so anybody who distributes mis or disinformation with regards to the dates and times of elections and the manner of elections will be subject to criminal penalties. It is relatively rare that this happens, but as we get closer to November, they are anticipating that 2024 will see that a lot. So we have a social media account for the clerk's office. We also have a website, and the township board has prioritized funding voter education. So we will be sending out election-specific focuses to residents this year, and information. I would say go to your local election official, especially because the rules around early voting will be different based on the municipality you're in. So outside organizations are not the best place to go to right now for factual information that's specific to local voting rules and regulations. The Secretary of State's office, mi.gov/vote, which is super simple. MI, which is our state, mi.gov/vote is where you can go to find out where you vote, who your clerk is. It's where you can register to vote if you're not registered yet, if you have a driver's license. It's where you can sign up to get an automatic absentee ballot sent to you, and it's where you can request a ballot for a specific election. It'll also show you where your drop boxes are if you want to return that ballot. Obviously, now there's prepaid postage, and so you can just mail it back to us, and it'll come to us nice and easy peasy. It's also, where you can figure out where your early voting locations are and all that good stuff. But so Secretary of State or the Bureau of Elections website, mi.gov/vote, or our elections website here, which is Canton, what is our website now? cantonmi.gov/vote.
Great, thank you. Trustee
Thank you.
Snyderman?
Happy winter. I don't have
It's
anything.
back. Kate?
So with a last name like Borninski, I would be remiss if I didn't wish everyone happy
yeah.
Punchki Day.
You were remiss in not bringing any to this meeting, I would have
Well,
to say.
I thought some of the trustees didn't like them.
I feel like you're looking at me.
I feel like that's what I heard last year. But anyway, I did have a punchak this morning, and that is the singular. Punchki is actually plural. And I might have one when I get home. I also would like to wish happy Valentine's Day to everyone, and especially to my mom and my mother-in-law, who will be celebrating their birthdays tomorrow.
Wow.
Nice.
Coincidence.
All right, thank you. So today in Canton, we announced the retirement of Officer Brian Shostak and his canine partner Ragnar. They were around the building had a wave out. So they began their Brian began his 25-year career Ragnar was not 25 years old. With Canton.
Dog years.
Yeah, dog years. Serving as a midnight shift patrol officer for his full career, Brian responded to call for service, provided traffic enforcement, that would be a record, conducted criminal investigations, and responded to emergency situations throughout the community. In addition to his patrol off duties, Officer Shostak holds a unique and remarkable resume of being involved with 3 special units of which he wholeheartedly committed himself for over 20 years. So we said goodbye to them today. I think I think he said he was 6 or 7. Okay, great. All right, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Support.
Motion made by Clerk Seeger, supported by Trustee Ganguly. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Meeting's adjourned.